once we get the live started, can you pull it up on your phone and double check sound? And JP, if you can also talk here so that we can hear both of our voices and yours.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello,
Pre-post
hello.
podcast or now?
Yeah, just do it now.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Let me pull this John up.
We did check it before we went live, but I would like to double check it now that it's live.
It never hurts, you know.
Given that last episode we sounded like robots.
Just a little harsh.
Did you go back and listen to it?
Very progressed robots, maybe.
Yeah, like AI from like 2 years ago.
Sure. Maybe like a year.
Like that video of Will Smith eating the spaghetti. Oh, we sound great. We sound pristine.
We now sound like robots in 10 years.
I don't know. Robots
2 years.
low-key might be sounding like that right now.
Depends on the robot.
Yeah.
I mean, low-key robots, way in back in the day also could have sounded like that.
Yeah.
On the robot.
Yeah. Cool. Let's start the pod. You ready?
Let us boogie. What is up, team? And welcome back to another episode of the Technical Fowl podcast. You're joined by all three of us today. Me, Jack Anderson, and to my right, Sanders Oakley are in studio. And then we have JP Pusilowski, as will be the new norm, videoing in live from the North Mississippi area. If he wants to give out a more specific location, he is more than welcome to.
Address.
But I will not dox him like that. Once again, that is for him to decide.
Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, he's got to dox himself.
Yeah, we'll see. Once again, up to him. He can make that decision if he wants. We're not here to dox someone. We're here to do, as the title suggests, an ACC 2026 football season preview. We're going to rattle through all the teams, some quicker than others.
Some of them we will be rattling through rapid
Boston
fire.
College, for example, probably won't be one of the longer segments.
Unfortunately, because they come first alphabetically, they were the team that I hit with the most gusto.
And they aren't good.
And they are not good.
I'm in the same boat.
I hit them and I was deep diving into the coach and the quarterback.
This D2 quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
I put up all his stats,
Sure.
and then it got to Syracuse, and it was Steve Angeli, good. Next.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll get through all the teams, and it's probably be largely, I would say, a Sanders-led podcast in a lot of ways. Maybe it's a JP-led podcast. I guess time will tell. But I do want to, start off with the reason we're podcasting so late is because the U.S. Just pulled off a 2-0 win in the knockouts against Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we decided we wanted to watch that, and so pushed back the recording. We actually have real jobs now, so the days of the midnight episodes, the 11 p.m. episodes, probably largely done. Even this is oh gosh,
I mean, they're not done. They're just gonna suck more.
I'm gonna be dragging. But no, that's why we're starting a little later. What did y'all think of the performance from the boys? What did y'all think of the red card? Any thoughts on that before we dive into American football?
Yeah, I thought it was a scam. I don't see how that deserved a red card. I mean, it was ridiculous, and that's coming from someone who I texted in the group chat earlier. What did I text earlier today that was mocking soccer a little bit? I was like, what have they done to the game I love?
That he injured his liver or something like that.
Yeah.
Gut and then
that was crazy. That was during the Belgium game.
Yeah, because he wanted to lay on the penalty kick spot for a couple minutes.
Yeah. That sorry to distract us from the United States, the real stars of tonight's show. But yeah, that was crazy. I did not think he deserved a red card for that. JP, you watched it. What were your thoughts?
JP is muted, so that makes it a little tough on his end.
I'll get better. I'll get better at that as we go forward.
It's all good.
I'm sniffling a little bit. I didn't want to sniffle into the microphone.
Fair.
But I fully agree. I thought the call was egregious. My feeling on it being egregious is more so because now a lot of people didn't see this. Because this was 3 or 4 nights ago. It was the last match of the night. It was past midnight on the East Coast. But Messi did worse than what Flo Balogun did in this game against in San Francisco just a few hours ago. And Messi got nothing. So I'm just upset with the lack of consistency. I think if you're going to have a governing body as big as FIFA, that the game should be called across the board to a very, to a T. Every game should be
Sure.
called very, very similar. Unless, of course, the ref has to step in because one game is more physical than the other. And, you want to set the tone with yellow or whatever cards or fouls early on. But on something like this, where you're going to a VAR review, like I do think it should be called the same across the board. I also, and in the same way, I feel like there should be some leniency in some things. Flo Balogun is not a play. While he had a yellow card in group play, he's not a player who's out there to try and harm anyone. Strikers are known for flopping and not
Sure.
necessarily taking out people. So I do think that should have played a little bit of a role. You also have to feel like there should be a little bit to account to what this potentially means for a player going forward, because it is a suspension for the next game. But I do think the U.S. still has a chance in the Belgian game. Vegas feels the same way. It's a 50-50 right now, and for Vegas, they think it's going to be, in fact, the favorite, I'm pretty sure, is draw through 90 minutes right now,
Sure.
as opposed to
Makes sense.
one of the two teams winning through 90 minutes. So
Yeah.
excited for Monday, but it's going to be a grind, and as many people have already pointed out, it's going to be a game where we will need Christian Pulisic to probably put one on the back of the net for us.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like a game where even if it's not Pulisic, someone like Tillman, who scored tonight, scores a non-striker. You could at this point kind of count for Balogun to get one a game, and that's not necessarily going to be the case with Pepe, even though he's not horrible in his own right. I thought we looked pretty good overall. We've talked about the red card enough, so I won't touch on that anymore, except that I agree it was a bad call.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be a game where they were going to sit back, and I think we kind of did well taking it to them. There were a lot of times I felt like the final ball was lacking, where it was like, there was just the one more pass, and we couldn't quite slip it through, or the cross was just overhit. But they were bound and determined to make our life rough, and that they did. And so there's no way you're going to be upset in that kind of game with coming away with a 2-0 victory. And I'm excited to watch us play against Belgium, even though it is a massive personal conflict of mine, as Kevin De Bruyne is my favorite player of all time. And if the U.S. wins, which I will be rooting for the U.S., that probably spells the end of his Belgium career, or at least definitely his Belgium career in the World Cup.
Never say never.
That is what it
never
is.
say never.
Quick side note, and then we do really need to get rolling. You see, Lewandowski is coming to the MLS.
I did not see that. Which team?
Chicago. So unfortunately, he has to play for Berhalter. But that gives you maybe a chance to see him live. Comes to Atlanta or something like that to play Atlanta United.
Yeah, I'll have to look.
But yeah, he's making the move. Should we get rolling?
Yeah. Do you want to turn us? Actually, no. I think we're good.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get all the sound things worked out. I think we had JP's voice coming through twice for a second there. Got that fixed.
Hey, that's just the more JP, the better.
Yeah. It just made it a lot harder to hear what either of him was saying.
Less is more sometimes.
Yeah, less is more sometimes. Yeah. But I do think if anyone is watching right now, Tucker or my family, the regular viewers, if you could just give us a thumbs up to comfort me and let me know that our sound levels we sound like no one is too loud or too quiet, and that nobody sounds like robots, whether they are advanced or ancient. But yeah, I think with that being said, I'm good to get started. I will say I'm very excited to have this work laptop, because now I have my notes on here, and I can have the baseball game with my boy Josh Kuroda-Grauer going on.
Is he playing for the A's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He hit 9th his first 2 appearances, hitting 5th tonight.
Wow, moving on up.
He is.
Moving on up.
Very excited to watch him play some baseball. Thank you, Win, for the thumbs up. All of our voices sound beautiful. We can get started talking college football and start it off.
I can't believe Win isn't studying with his, whatever he's doing. Once again, I won't get too specific.
You're going to dox him?
But, he probably should be studying for his
post-grad career.
is what I was gonna say. Yeah. But you do you win. I won't stop you from
It's only
tuning in
10
and giving
o'clock.
us a viewer. They should be studying exactly. It's only
True.
10 o'clock.
Well, he's probably been studying for the last 5 hours.
Sure.
So
he's
he
probably
could
been
watch the
playing
show.
disc golf or hanging out with his girlfriend. Let's be real.
So you're gonna dox him for having a girlfriend, but not what he's.
There's a lot of girlfriends in the world. That's all I'll say.
Let's dive in alphabetically.
And that means Boston College is up first. Go ahead and pull them up, and then I'll start. Boston College, rough year last year. Went 2-10 and finished 1-7 in conference. They finished with one of the worst defenses in the ACC and just college football in general. And also their offense wasn't much better, so that kind of tells you how they finished at a measly 2-10 last season. They're going to look to improve on that. Bill O'Brien's still around. New DC. Tons of new players in. We joked about the D2 quarterback that may end up winning the starting job. We'll see earlier on the show. But yeah, went 2-10 last year. I believe their win total this year is like 3.5. It's not much better.
Yes.
But that's kind of what we're looking at. Thoughts on Boston College, either of y'all?
Pulling up my notes as we speak, which may take a second. But yeah, the win total being that low is tough. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yes, it's me. The quarterback that they. All right, well, I can't pull my notes up there, and I can't pull them up there. Give me just a second. JP, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, the quarterback that you're trying to reference is Mason McKenzie.
Yes, thank you.
D2 transfer from, I need to pull up the college again. It was a 3-word college.
San Jose State.
Saginaw Valley State.
Oh, no, you're right. It was that. It's a different guy from San Jose.
You're disrespecting San Jose State, calling them a D2 college.
Sorry, there's another ACC quarterback. Can we just start this segment over again while I get my notes up? This is train wreck.
San Jose State is a great potential dynasty pick in college football, the video game that's about to
Nick Starkel led them to like 9 wins like 4 years ago. We're disrespecting an A&M legend like that. Anyway, continue, JP.
But I'll continue. Mason McKenzie was who you're referencing. He's a very intriguing dual threat quarterback that's coming in, 6'1", 190. Last year he threw for 17 touchdowns, and on the ground he ran for 10. So not quite like Devin Dampier numbers, the guy who came in from New Mexico to Utah last year, he had 18 touchdowns on the ground and 18 through the air. But pretty similar. He ran for almost 1,000 yards last year as well. I think maybe some Boston College fans out there might be trying to draw some comparisons to Trinidad Chambliss, and we're going to find a D2 stud out there who might lead us to the promised land. As you mentioned, I don't think the 3.5 win total is going to suggest a little bit differently. And I also am a Bill O'Brien hater, probably more than I am a Lane Kiffin hater.
Oh, wow.
So I'm even going to give the edge to Lane Kiffin there. This Golden Eagle team is just it's going to be a tough season, as we've talked about. They lost some big pieces as well in the off season, including a guy who I do think a lot of us are going to get used to hearing. What was his name? Is the running back who left, Turbo Richard.
Pretty good name.
Left and transferred to Indiana. And I do think we'll be hearing his name a fair amount this year for the Indiana Hoosiers. It's a guy who ran for almost 800 yards last year and 9 rushing touchdowns. So a big loss on the ground. But I don't have a lot of high hopes for this Boston College team.
Sure.
This season and going forward. But maybe there's some way to turn that in the other direction if you try to make that Trinidad Chambliss comparison. With Mason McKenzie.
Another thing I'll say is they made some changes to the defensive side of the ball. They brought in a new DC. They fired Tim Lewis last year because they finished 123rd in points per game. They bring in Ted Roof, who spent some time as DCs at other places, including UCF, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Georgia Tech. And in that Georgia Tech stint, I mean, he was allowing he was in the mid-20s, so that's like a 8 to 10 points per game improvement from last year. So they are trying to make improvements there. I still don't know if that's going to hang in the ACC, especially with teams like Miami, that Clemson room, with the Clemson team with the talented wide receiver room. I still don't know if that defense is going to be improved enough to hang and get to 500 in conference play, but it should be better. That's kind of the expectation there. As far as recruiting goes, they finished 14th in the SEC in the portal. ACC in the portal, and then they finished 14th in high school. So 14th in the portal and 14th in high school. Not great numbers for Bill O'Brien going into, is this year 4? Something like that?
Year 4, yes. Yeah. Year 4.
Not at all what you want to see. And, I mean, one of my favorite theories that I've heard so far is that they won't fire him because they just hired a new basketball coach. And so they're going to save money and just let him run out his time there and run that program into the ground.
He's put a couple of solid seasons there, in fairness, in terms of, a solid Boston College season of 7-6, a couple of bowl appearances.
Another guy I want to talk about, just to try and give Boston College fans something to look forward to, as a guy that can relate to this, they've got a freshman coming in, 6'4", 205. He was listed at 6'3", 205 on Rivals. Now on the official Boston College website, he's 6'4", 230. So since his last weigh-in, he's put on an inch and 25 pounds. Top 25 quarterback in the class of 2026, according to ESPN. Let me see if so I looked up how to pronounce his name. Femi Babaloa. We'll see if that's right. If a Boston College fan sees this and it's wrong, I do apologize. I'm trying to hype this guy up. I apologize if I couldn't find the correct pronunciation. But he could be a monster. I was watching some of his film. He does have some wheels. He's not as quick as Lamar Jackson, and he isn't going to turn a lot of broken plays into rushing yards. He's not going to scramble, but he's not stiff in the pocket, and his arm is actually really, really good. He had some throws with some great touch on them, 60-yard touchdowns where the guy is not 5 yards open. He's 2 yards open.
So you're saying McKenzie isn't going to be the next Trinidad Chambliss. They need to start preparing for Femi.
Femi, I'm not sure. One of those. But I'm not. I am pretty confident in saying that he will not be the next Trinidad Chambliss. Hopefully, this guy is in the same track as Kamari Taylor, where it's year 2, year 3. That's when you get excited. But I just wanted to give some excitement to Boston College fans. Another guy to watch out for. Did y'all talk about the running back?
No, that's where I was gonna go.
Yeah, go for it.
But yeah, they brought in a Liberty transfer. Hate Liberty, so congrats to Evan Dickens for escaping. Transferring from Liberty to Boston College is a huge step up. Rushed for over 1,000 yards at Liberty last season. He's a good running back, but I mean, you just mentioned Turbo, who's going to Indiana, so it's not like they didn't have a good running back last year. It's all going to come down to whether the retooling of the offensive line and the portal works out or not. And if it does, they do have a running back with quality that would be able to improve their offensive production massively from where it was last year. But yeah, it's really going to rely on the offensive line. But that is a big pickup in the portal, Evan Dickens from Liberty. Do we want to pick over under?
Yeah, we could do. When do we want me to talk about how they win the ACC? Before or after we pick?
Well, that tells me you're picking over.
Well, no, I did this for every team.
How they win the ACC?
Yeah.
All right, rip through this. Let's hear it.
You got to go 6-2 against your ACC opponents, and those 2 losses would come to Miami, and I believe they play SMU. So the top 2 favorites to win the ACC. So you got to scratch out some wins, go 6-2, and then pull off the miracle of the century against Miami in the ACC championship.
Sure.
That probably means
Does Bill O'Brien get a statue outside the stadium if they do that?
That's a great. I think Femi does.
What if he doesn't lead him?
I think Bill O'Brien gets fired, and then Femi takes over play calling duties in the huddle as a freshman, and leads the charge. It is unlikely to happen. As a matter of fact, they have some of the worst odds. I don't remember if they have the worst odds.
I think Stanford has worse odds.
No, they have worse. Technically, they're slightly worse.
Sorry,
I had to
Stanford,
go. I couldn't. Yeah, plus 30,000 for Boston College, plus 25,000 for Stanford. So you'd make good money on either one. I think you could bet both those, and if one of them won, you'd still come out net positive.
Sounds like you're betting that. You made it sound so simple.
Yeah, it is. It is simple. Math is simple. But yeah, we can get into picking now.
I mean, I just have a 3.5 is so low, but like this team doesn't excite me. I'll take the over. Give me the over. Come on, Boston College. They were close in a couple big games last year. Like, just couldn't get over the hump. I mean, they took Georgia Tech down to the wire. A lot of teams did that, but still, like they were a team that showed some fight. And if the roster can just be slightly improved and the talent be slightly improved, they can get over the hump.
Early in the season,
huh?
Weren't they ranked early in the season? Didn't they play a game against Missouri in which it was first ranked?
Surely not, but maybe. I think maybe did Virginia Tech play? No, that was Virginia Tech, South Carolina.
I may be thinking of the Boston College team of 2 years ago, but I feel like they might have been.
I mean, they weren't horrible the year. I think they finished with 7 wins the year before, so there's a chance that they were ranked. But that I don't remember one way or the other.
Might have been 2 years ago.
Okay, JP, what's your pick? Over under?
I'm gonna take the under personally, but I do think this is a team to watch out for, especially late in the season. They have 2 big games, late in October and late November at Notre Dame and at Miami. If they were hosting those games, I'd really highlight them. But those are 2 teams that are going to be contending for playoff spots, contending for ACC championship spot in the case of Miami. And when you have a team that's going to have to rely on running the football as much as they are, if Mason McKenzie still is a starter at that point in the season, that's a team that could potentially draw out a game and limit the possessions and maybe stun one of the the national title contender in Notre Dame and another one in Miami. But I'm gonna take the under. They play one team that's not Power 5 or Power 4 this year, and that's Maine at home. I don't think they find 3 more wins to get over that 4. I'll have them at 3 and 9. But I would look out for them in those games towards the end of the season, especially Miami and the Notre Dame game.
I'm also taking the under, but go ahead and put me on record for next year. Whatever the win total is, it could be 9.5. I'm taking the over. I'm trusting Feme.
What if he transfers out?
Then I'm taking the over on that next team.
Okay.
6'4", 230 pounds, put on 25 pounds since he got to campus.
That tells me that he really enjoys, like, they have unlimited meal plan.
No, that tells me he's been in the weight room, dude.
Sure.
He's been in the weight room. I'm taking the under. Next up, give me a sec to get the graphic up on my computer. That is, I should have run the update before we went live, but it is what it is. California.
Shout out California, man. 7-6 last season. JKS took over the reins, and the biggest news of their offseason was JKS announcing that he was staying. And then they, were able to parlay that momentum into some bigger names out of the transfer portal, keeping some guys around, and they're going to look to ride that momentum into next season. But realistically, this is not the most talented team, so a lot of it is still going to be on the shoulders of JKS, the supremely talented sophomore QB. We got the win total for them for this season, JP?
The win total for them is 6.5.
6.5 makes sense.
6.5. It's a team that made a coaching change after, a decent season, hiring Tosh Lapoy, who was the Oregon defensive coordinator. He stays out west, stays Pac-12 if you wanted to go there.
If you will,
and goes down to Cal, and will be coaching that JKS team. They also have former Washington Commanders head coach Ron Rivera acting as their football general manager.
Sure.
Right now, new head coach, so kind of a fresh start, and maybe that was a potential selling point for a guy like JKS, who would have been a really hot commodity in this year's portal and probably will be for next year's portal if this season doesn't go well for Cal. But 6.5 after a 7-6 season last year, 7-5 through the regular season. They lost the Hawaii Bowl to Hawaii in Hawaii. to finish 7-6.
I mean, that's a home game, so that's not really a fair. That's a home game for Hawaii. That's not a fair matchup. But I'll also talk. So other coaching staff changes. They obviously Lupoi comes down from Oregon. He was the DC there and will manage the defense in California. They bring in a new offensive coordinator, Jordan Somerville from Tampa Bay, who spent the last 3 years there as the quarterback coach with Baker Mayfield. So coming in from the NFL, he is not staying on the West Coast. Obviously, he's making a big change there, but he's returning to the West Coast. He spent time with Lupoi at Oregon in 2022. He was an offensive analyst there. So some overlap and hopefully some chemistry there, right? I mean, that 2022 Oregon team, I believe that was year one. Was that year one of Bo Nix at Oregon? A successful team. I mean, because all of Lanning's teams up there have been very successful. One of the biggest, Lupoi has already done a great job of recruiting. The biggest thing he did was, in my opinion, he brought 4 former 4-stars from Oregon, including 3 defensive players, right? So that's right in his wheelhouse. He brings 3 guys. I believe Cooper Perry was the wide receiver he brought, and then a couple defenders to play. They had the 4th-ranked transfer portal class in the ACC and the 4th-ranked high school class in the ACC. So both of those classes kind of set them up to be successful, hopefully, in this next year, and we can get into that, how successful when we pick them. Another couple guys I've got to watch is the entire wide receiver room, because you talked about JKS, but the wide receiver room is entirely revamped. You got Ian Strong, who spent 3 years at Rutgers, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. Chase Hendricks was at Ohio last year, over 1,000 yards with 7 touchdowns. And then, like I said, Cooper Perry, a former 4-star, a top 25 wide receiver in the class of 2025. So he'll be a freshman or a redshirt freshman 1. So I'm excited to watch JKS. We know he's talented. We watched him. He was awesome. He was really fun. A lot of late-night California games, which are some of my favorite games, are the West Coast games after your game finishes. You turn the TV on. Hopefully you won, and you're getting to kick back and enjoy some West Coast football. If you lost, you can just sit there in silence and watch guys you've never heard of and names you can't pronounce play football.
I agree. It also just still doesn't hit the same since it's not Pac-12 after dark.
Agreed. It does not hit as
you
good.
take what you can get.
Exactly. But I'm excited now that we know him. He's on the map. People know his name. I'm excited to watch him with a revamped offense, a new OC, just new everything. Kind of like you said, a fresh start. They're expected to start 12 transfers, according to our lads. So keep that. In my opinion, it can be hard at times for teams who bring in a bunch of transfers to hit the ground running because they haven't played games together. There's 0 chemistry, so they got to figure that out. And then the big thing to watch, keep this in mind as you're picking the over-under, 9 straight games before they have a bye week. Talk about scheduling dynamics. They do not have a bye week until week 10. So that'll be something really, really key as we get into picking and we can look at the schedule. And then before we get into picking, I'll hit you with how they win the ACC. JKS takes the next step. Revamp wide receiver room. Turns it into a dynamic offense. And then Lupoi evaluated the guys he brought from Oregon really well, and he evaluated all that number 4 ACC portal class really well, and he coaches the heck out of the defense. And so now you have dynamic offense led by one of the best young quarterbacks in college football, paired up with a DC coaching up his side of the ball really well.
Yeah, they have an A&M transfer on the defense, so I'm all in.
Yeah, all in.
I'm all in. Do you agree, JP, that JKS is ready to have a? He was really good last year, but I still think there's a breakout in him of he clearly takes a defined step, gets markedly better in year 2. Do you see that happening, or do you think it's gonna maybe be a year where there's still some inconsistencies and some good games and bad games, big moments followed by young mistakes?
I think getting to play has helped.
Yeah.
I also think what's the word, consistency and coming from Oregon, Tosh Lupoi, bringing those kinds of standards, winning standards there to Cal, I think would help his development a ton, even though Tosh is on the defensive side of the ball. But they surrounded him with weapons in the wide receiver room. And then I even like Mason Muhammad, a transfer from Washington, running back. And then, or not Mason Muhammad, what was his name? Muhammad, the Washington transfer at running back, and then he's got a safety valve who he had last year, a tight end, Mason Minnie, who was not many in his own right. I think he's got a lot of weapons around him, and this is, I think, a Cal team that is going to be expected to score a ton of points with JKS, and I do think they will. But to go back on the JKS point, I think he's going to have a good season this year. I think he's going to put on a show. I hope Cal gets some prime time, like ESPN games that kick off at 10:30 Eastern, and he can try to shock the world a little bit. Big one is they host Clemson on a Friday night. That'll be a standalone game almost assuredly on ESPN or ABC. It's a big chance to. It's probably, when you look at the schedule, like the Cal game, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to watch at some point this season. And that is a huge moment for him if he can put on, a show against Clemson and that Clemson defense, which has historically always been really, really good. It immediately elevates his stock for not only the NFL draft, but if he were to so choose to enter the portal, even more so that next year he could get a really big bag, even if he plays bad the rest of the season. A big moment in a primetime game against Clemson is a huge opportunity for him, and I bet they got that one circled over there.
Over under 6.5. I'll take the over.
Yeah.
I don't see like an elite season from them. Like, I don't see a world where it's week 11, week 12, and they're like, flirting with a college football playoff berth or anything like that. But I think they, 8 wins, something like that, 7-8 wins. A pretty solid year too, and something they can continue to look building off of to build off of.
I'm also going to take the over. I'll go ahead and go before JP real quick. This team really excites me. I think this team's going to be fun. And like I said, West Coast football has a special place in my heart because it's the end of the day. It's, they don't finish till midnight, 1 a.m., hopefully, on the good nights. And so I'm excited to get to watch some of these games late at night and get to watch JKS. And the real question is, who has a bigger impact year one? A&M transfer Solomon Williams or Mississippi State transfer Jimothy Lewis?
I'm going to go with Solomon Williams. I don't.
That's disrespectful.
I think things have gone bad if Jimothy Lewis.
He's blocking for JKS's blind side. No, he's not. It's blind side. He's blocking for.
Is he starting?
Our lads has him starting right now at right tackle for a left-handed
Can
quarterback.
I take the under, please? That seems like a bad sign.
I'm fine. Yeah, I'm going to agree there. I didn't have that news, and now that I do, I'm going to take the under as well. I hope,
love it.
JKS keeps an eye on his blind side. But I just something to note. I wonder if Cal fans are feeling this right now. They already survived the one transfer portal cycle with JKS. If he can get through a second one and he can play his junior season, is this the next great Cal quarterback? Joins the likes of Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff as potential first-round picks. Kind of a unique storyline to be potentially looking at as we go forward.
Sure.
Not a historically great football program, but maybe 3 of the better quarterbacks in NFL history. Pipe dream, I know, for Cal fans.
We just threw Jared Goff in with the 3 of the better quarterbacks in NFL history.
I would say his numbers.
He's almost won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Top 75?
A top 70 quarterback of all time, 75 quarterback. I don't know. Some of those quarterbacks back in the 60s were pretty good. You put one of those 60s quarterbacks in that Lions offense.
Otto Graham.
They put up some big numbers. So we're going on the over. Jack, you're still the over?
Yeah, I'll stay with
and
the
then
over.
JP's on the under. All right, sounds good. We can get to
Clemson.
JP's secondary team. I almost said tertiary, not because it is, but just because tertiary is fun to say. But I couldn't think of a team that might be his secondary team over Clemson. So Clemson it is. Take it away.
Yeah, Clemson Tigers coming off just a terribly, terribly disappointing year. It's supposed to be kind of a bit of a bounce back year for them. Hey, Cade Klubnik, he's coming back. We actually have a really good wide receiver room. They're going to cook. The defense should be elite. And even though they lost week 1 to LSU, it still kind of felt like, wow, that defense was great. Maybe the offense can kind of get going as rolling as the season goes along. That was not at all the case. They finished at 7-6. Horrible year. We had Dabo Swinney basically like daring the athletic department to fire him. Being like, look what all I've done for this program, stuff like that. And so we roll into a really, really interesting 2026 for them. JP, what's their win total? Does Vegas kind of see that as a complete fluke? Are they back up like 9, 9.5, 8.5?
I wish I could say the win total was at 9. No, it's at 7.5.
Okay.
Favored on 7.5.
Sure.
So likely to be 8, but still. This is that was a season to forget for sure for Clemson, and it called for some changes that they of course had to make.
Yeah.
Dabo throughout the regular season, and even a little bit into the offseason, was very much on the look what I've done for this program. Out of which to his point, a ton of stats he could pull of. We were the only team to win a championship for every single recruiting class, and all of these wins compared to Clemson history, and I fully agree with that. But it just came at a wrong spot of trying to use it to defend what was a utter disaster of a season last year, in which you have a quarterback returning who could have been a top 10 overall pick. In fact, was mocked as the number 1 overall pick immediately following the 2025 NFL draft to the Cleveland Browns. Cade Klubnik was mocked number 1 overall. That, of course, did not happen, and now he's the New York Jets quarterback going forward.
Do we think that, even though that didn't work out, if the Browns did take Cade Klubnik, he would be able to win that starting job?
No.
Okay.
I think I would go with Shador. That's coming from a Tiger fan myself. So you come into this next season, and they made a ton of changes. Most notably, a firing of Garrett Riley, firing of Chad Morris. Dabo throughout this offseason, used that as a saying, okay, remember last time we hired Chad Morris? We went on a run. We ended up winning finally a national championship with Deshaun Watson and that team. And it was super special. That, of course, correlation. There's obviously correlation. If it happens once, that means there's correlation. That means we're going to do that again.
Yep.
He was very much using that. They returned Tom Allen, who had a disappointing season. Honestly, last year, the defensive coordinator came over from Penn State. Or was it Notre Dame? It was Notre Dame. Came over from Notre Dame, joined Clemson. He'll be going into his second season as a defensive coordinator. So familiar, voices on the offensive side, a second year of Tom Allen. But the biggest problem is they lost the roster that they had last year, at least on paper, to begin the season. You lose that quarterback in Cade Klubnik. You lose a running back in Adam Randall. You lose the defensive pieces of TJ Parker and Peter Woods and Avion Terrell, and you're going to have to figure out ways to replace them. The biggest spot, though, that people are going to look is going to be the quarterback battle that'll be decided throughout training camp. It looks like right now, clear leader is Chris Vecina, is how I'm going to pronounce it this season until I'm told otherwise.
Sure.
But Vecina is a guy who hasn't had a ton of run. He hasn't even completed 600 passing yards throughout his collegiate career, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception throughout his career. His best moment last year, though, came against SMU in a game where he started. It was his first career start, and he threw for 317 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Not bad at all.
So he has big game potential in him. And he's going to have the receivers this year to do that. With the returning of TJ Moore and Brian Wesco, which was surprising, I'll be honest, as a Clemson Tiger, that they were, back with Clemson. But that kind of speaks to, again, the culture that Dabo gets there. I do think they're going to be better at running back as well. Adam Randall was a receiver that turned into a running back, and he was very much hit or miss, and the rushing offense was just catastrophic last year. We're going to have running back that's probably going to be led by Gideon Davidson, who didn't run a ton last year, he's a returning guy to go along with Chris Johnson Jr., which, of course, an allure to the Chris Johnson. They're not related as far as I'm pretty sure that I'm correct on that. He's not related to the actual Chris Johnson.
That would be news to me. So
Yeah. The Davidson's a former 5-star, right? He was a freshman last
Yes.
year, 5-star. That's what I thought. So he'll be something to watch out for. That wide receiver room, I mean, you nailed it. The fact that neither of them transferred is huge for Dabo and for Clemson, and kind of the expectation, because like that's kind of Dabo's thing, is I'm not going to get transfers. I'm going to go get my guys, and they're going to stay my guys. And it worked. I mean, Wesco and Moore both stuck around. They'll be important. I mean, they're going to be a big part of this offense. It's going to be important to see how Chad Morris uses them, how whoever the quarterback is able to work with them.
Vicina?
Mm-hmm.
Who's he competing with?
Chris Henry?
Chris
Denson.
Who's
Sorry.
a lefty, who's more of a mobile threat than he is a throwing threat. Vicina is more of your true quarterback, and he's 6'4". Denson's a little smaller than that, but he's got better wheels.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If this was
lefty.
If this was College Football 26, we're taking Denson every day of the week.
Sure.
Especially with the way you
Yes.
play quarterback. But
I like to scramble. Sue me.
yeah, another guy I'm interested to watch will be Naeem Burrows, top 100 recruit, wide receiver. I wonder if he's kind of the third guy in a three-headed monster with Wesco and Moore. That'll be something to watch. Once again, I mean, I'll get into it in a second. In my how Clemson wins the ACC, it's that wide receiver room helps out the quarterback much in the same way that I would argue Mac Jones got helped in that 2020 Alabama offense, right? He got carried by the wide receivers that he had on that roster. I don't know that I would say that Christopher Vicina is a future NFL quarterback, and so he's going to need his wide receivers to get very open, to get yards after catch, to create opportunities for that offense, because I just don't know that. I feel like if Vicina was that guy, right, if he was truly him, we might have seen more from him already at this point. That's my expectation. How they win the ACC is Dabo and Clemson embrace being the hunter and not the hunted. It's been a long time. I feel like I guess you could argue we were having that conversation last year, but I feel like last year set the tone for this year to be like a full season of that, right? Your win total is what you say, 7.5. It's low. You don't have what we had last year, where it was 3 guys projected to go in the top 5 with T.J. Parker, Cade Klubnik, and then the third, Peter Woods.
Yeah.
Like a year ago, well, not a year ago, but a year and a half ago, we were talking about those 3 guys being drafted in the top 5. And so you can't have you can't look at that and say, yeah, but they're the hunter, right? They're not being the hunted. So this is a different mentality that Dabo has a chance to lead this team with, and I'm interested to see how he does it. I've got to win the ACC. You got to go 7-1, and in this season, you got to beat Miami 1 time, and it can't be in the regular season, right? So you got to hit them in the second game, right, in Charlotte, and you got to do you can't. It's hard to beat a team twice in one season, so you go 7-1, you lose to them in the regular season, and then game 2 in Charlotte, you bounce back and you hand them an L and you win the ACC, and then you're back in the playoffs for the second time in 3 years. I would argue one of the more realistic, how this team wins the ACC, because they are talented, right? They still their transfer portal class was obviously not ranked very highly, 7th in the ACC, but their high school class.
They tried, and then Ole Miss decided to steal their player.
Yeah, I can't believe Ole Miss would tamper. Man, we should shut the program down, and we hit him with the SMU or whatever
the death penalty.
Yeah, the death penalty for Ole Miss for that. I mean, that's just criminal. What happened to the sport I love? But in the high school ranks, they did finish 2nd. Behind Miami, obviously. So Miami is more talented on paper, which is why you only have to beat them once, not twice. But yeah, they're still recruiting well. It's not up to Dabo's top 10 standards nationally, is it like it once was, but it's still a good team he's putting together there. And a good year this year, and 9-10 wins. I think 10 wins, and immediately we're like, you know what? Dabo just had the second best recruiting class in the ACC. He brought in 12 4-star guys. this team is still not like he's got a redshirt freshman that you're talking about, or he's got a freshman sitting on the bench right now behind Vicina and Denson. Maybe he's the future. I think that there's a way that Dabo has a good year this year, and kind of settles things down, and then we get back into the conversations about Clemson being really, really good in 2 years.
I mean, he could if he wasn't washed and really stubborn. So I don't really know if that's gonna happen. But never say never. That being said, as I call the man washed and stubborn, I will take the over. I will have them getting to a whopping 8 wins.
JP?
I'm taking the over. Of course, a little bit of bias there.
Just a skosh.
But I will say, go ahead and get used to seeing this team on ABC or ESPN, because they got nothing but big games throughout the entire season. Of course, they open the season in Death Valley against LSU. They play GATA. Go ahead and put that one on primetime. ABC.
Massive
Week 2, Georgia Southern comes to town. Bill Belichick comes to Clemson in week 3. They go to Cal on a Friday night. They host Miami. Probably going to be a night game as well. That's the first 5 weeks, and then you get a bye. James Franklin, his first season at Virginia Tech, they come to Clemson. That's going to be ESPN or ABC. They're at Florida State. That's always a big game. If Mike Norvell and the Seminoles have their stuff together this year, it'd actually be kind of a marquee game potentially in the ACC. They host Georgia Tech. And then, of course, you still got South Carolina at the end of the season. So this is a team you're going to see a ton of. There's probably going to be some Clemson fatigue for some SEC fans out there, some Dabo fatigue, as there is always. But I'm going to take the over. I think they got a lot of chances in front of them. And I do think that offense is just going to be better this year. It has to be. It has to be better than it was last year. And I think on the defensive side of the ball with Tom Allen in his second year, I think they're going to be much improved. They lost some big pieces, but I do think they still have some good pieces. And guys like Sammy Brown, who's potentially a first or second round pick linebacker, is going to be a Mike. And then you got corners like Ashton Hampton and then a safety, Glo Barnes. I think it's a team that's going to surprise some people. And, of course, that's going to get Dabo fired up, and we'll get some good clips out of him throughout the year as he tells everyone how much they doubted the Clemson Tigers. So give me the over. I'm going to predict 10-win season.
Wow.
As well. I got them 10-2.
I think people would, and this is me included, would very much appreciate talking about the amount of games Clemson has and Clemson fatigue. If the team would just be a little more fun to watch this season, especially offensively, like you talked about how bad it's been. So that's really what I would like. Sanders?
I'm also going to go over.
Sure.
I'm excited to see Dabo with this team, because I feel like this is the tipping point, right? The fork in the road for Dabo not being the Clemson head coach in like 700 days, 2 years, right? Either whether that's because he realizes that he's washed and he just says, you know what, I'm gonna step away, or maybe he realizes he thinks he needs to change his scenery, or he does get fired because he goes 6-6 this year and it's too far gone.
I do feel like he's gonna have to get fired.
Really?
He just basically was like, I'm not leaving last year. Like, gonna have to fire me.
Yeah,
So,
but
what head coach goes, I'm washed. Let me just stop. Very few.
Nick Saban.
I don't know if Nick Saban was like, I'm washed. Nick Saban
He realized
was just
he realized he couldn't hang in the modern college football. All Dabo's got to do is wake up and realize the same thing. No, I don't actually believe that. I'm just saying, I think that this next season could be kind of what determines the next, 5 years of Clemson football, is how this season goes. Because you have a good season, then you have another good recruiting class. You have a bad season, and maybe this year was the last semi-good recruiting class they had. But we can get into Duke, the Blue Devils.
Yeah, let's get into Duke. So we talked about how big of a win it was for Cal to keep their star quarterback around. Exact opposite for Duke. They just got punched in the gut this offseason as Miami swoops in and says, hey, Darian Mensah, how does 5-7 million sound, whatever the number was? And he says that sounds pretty great to me, and hops on down to Florida to be Miami's new quarterback, and that leaves Duke reeling, which is tough because, hey,
They won the ACC.
That's ACC champions, 2025 ACC champions, the Duke Blue Devils to you. But the celebration couldn't last long because Mensa dips, and so now they have to recover from that. Sanders, you want to walk us through? Well, first, JP, you want to give us the win total, and then Sanders, you want to walk us through how they tried to recover from that.
What do you mean recover? Repeat. You're acting like they're defeated. They just won the ACC.
Well, they have to recover from losing their quarterback.
I'm going to walk you through how they repeat ACC championships.
Okay, well, you can do that. But first, what's the win total?
So surprisingly, the win total is the same as Clemson's, 7.5.
Which, yeah, okay.
That does surprise me a little bit. But yeah, the losing Derry Mensa is tough. He had 4,000 yards last year with 34 touchdowns. Kind of I would say, at least I slept on him a little bit because the Duke team was not a good football team. I mean, they went 7-5 in the regular season. They snuck into the championship game because of a bunch of tiebreakers. But yeah, they go 7-5, 6-2 in the ACC. And what's also tough is they also lose their wide receiver, whose name where did I write it down? I guess I didn't. But they lose their wide receiver to Miami. He follows his quarterback. Thank you, Cooper Barkate. Which, shout out him. I was listening to a podcast. Apparently, he got his undergrad from Harvard in 3 years, came to Duke and got his master's in a year, and is headed to Miami and is on track to get another post-grad degree. So, kid is a genius. So, shout out him for that, because that is really a really awesome story.
Really unfair, to be honest.
Unfair.
Well, you can be a genius and then also just, posting a 1,000+ yard receiving season in college football.
But this has got to really hurt for Duke fans because this comes just 2 years after you lose Riley Leonard to Notre Dame. He goes to the championship game. And as Mensa was having this fantastic season where, like I said, 34 touchdowns, 4,000 yards, I feel like the narrative was, okay, Duke's got to do whatever they can do to keep him here. You can't have the Riley Leonard repeat mistake. You got to keep this guy here, build around him, start to establish a culture of success and winning. They win the ACC. And I think they even had him signed to some sort of agreement because there was the whole thing about how Duke they were going to do the same thing that Washington did with Denzel.
Not Denzel Boston.
Thank you.
No, just this is my dog, and I'm blanking on his name. It's Williams something, right?
Damon Williams.
Damon
Williams, not Denzel. Damon. I thought that because those two stories were happening around the same time, and I thought Duke was going to be able to keep him the same way Washington did. They didn't.
They need better lawyers.
Yeah. I imagine Duke's got pretty good lawyers, but
clearly not.
Maybe
they didn't write the contract well enough.
Enters Walker Eget. This is the guy from San Jose State, not the Boston College quarterback. Last year he had 3,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. We'll get into it, and I'll give my pick later.
Not inspiring.
I'm not inspired for Duke, and I'm very sorry that I'm not inspired. Because I'm trying to be optimistic, and I will be actually for every other team where I have how they win the ACC. I left that blank for Duke.
they're not going to win.
I think this might be the only team that I left. Maybe one other team.
Well,
that
we saw
blank.
They showed us the blueprint last year, and that's if you're going to lose, make sure that's a non-conference game.
True.
It doesn't matter how bad the team is you lose to in the non-conference, as long as you can win enough conference games and find yourself in Charlotte.
They win.
You have a chance.
1-3 out of conference with losses to UConn. And
it was. I think their one
other
non-conference one was Elon or whatever.
Yeah. So not a great year.
So that's all you got to do. It is really weird that they won the ACC championship, but they're still just very much for a stepping stone program of everyone that is good enough leaves.
Yeah.
Mensa, Riley Leonard, even Mike Elko gets his first head coaching job at Duke. As soon as hey, this guy's a pretty good head coach. He gets a bigger job, moves on. That's kind of what they are. And that sucks because it would be sick if they could win it and be let's run it back with the squad and try and repeat.
Yeah.
And maybe make the college football playoff this time. Don't really get that opportunity.
Yeah. Not at all a Duke hater on this podcast. I'm more of a Duke realist. I like the program. I like the history of just the Duke logo just brings me it's a cool program. It's cool.
I mean they got Khan's brother to commit the other day. That's a pretty big.
That is
win.
Cool. So I don't have a way for them to win the ACC. It's really, the schedule isn't great. You play Miami at Miami. You play Clemson. You play at Virginia. You play at NC State, an NC State team that I'm kind of high on. It's just not. It's not great. And so I will say a guy to watch just to stop the pessimism. Nate Shepard had 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns last year, and did not start until week 5.
Yeah, that's a great shout. He deserves it. He's a dog.
I'm trying to stop some of my negativism.
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 Yeah.
And bring some excitement to Duke because maybe the run game y'all just cook on the ground, and maybe you figure out how to stop having. Didn't they have a bunch of weird losses? Like, wasn't the Illinois game? No, that was it?
The Illinois game was bad.
Because it was like they had like 4, 6 turnovers, something like that.
Yeah, 6 turnovers, and it would be like there's like the stupidest turnovers ever. Like you march down the field or have a big play and then cough it up on the goal line.
I think they had a couple other losses that were like stupid losses.
Well, I mean, unless I'm mistaken, they lost to UConn.
Yeah.
Shouldn't really happen.
No.
UConn was pretty good last year. Shouldn't really happen though.
The Illinois game, they outgained Illinois, and they lost 45-19.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. So eliminate some of those things. Here's how we're gonna do an impromptu how you win the ACC. Don't lose stupid games, and then pull off a couple upsets, right? And there's your recipe. You go 6-2 again in the ACC, and the tiebreaker is then the last team to win the ACC championship gets in automatically. That's probably the new tiebreaker. I saw they leaked the documents.
It's like King of the Hill. They're just waiting
exactly.
for whoever.
The new tiebreaker is whoever was the last team to win the ACC wins the tiebreaker, and Duke currently has that. It's kind of like the talking stick or something. Like if you're holding it, you have power. So that's how Duke wins the ACC. Do we want to pick over under on this? Was it 7.5?
I'll take the under, and I think that's pretty fitting. Like, I feel like I would be doing. It'd be weird if after everything I just said, if I took the over. So give me the under.
JP, can you confirm that it was 7.5? Because I have it in here written from like a week ago that it was 5.5, but I probably just wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, let me confirm.
Which
so I had it wrong. It is 5.5.
It's 5.5. Jack, you reconsider, and I'll go ahead
and stick with my guns.
I'm also taking the under on 5.5.
I've taken 3 overs already for one thing, so I gotta start.
I really do hate to do it to Duke, but as I say that as if it holds power. I hate to do this to y'all, man, but unfortunately, taking the under.
They're all really mad at you.
Yeah,
right
they're
now.
really upset. Hey, it wouldn't be the first fan base we've had mad at us.
Shout out Carolina Panthers.
JP, what are you taking on 5.5 over under?
I'm gonna take the over. Over is favored by Vegas at like 60%, give or take. I think Manny Diaz has proven enough that he deserves I don't know, the credit to get to bowl eligibility for this Duke team, regardless of what the roster kind of looks like. I think he has earned that right. So I'm gonna take the over, but the over at 6-6.
Cool. Next up, Florida State, the Seminoles.
Pretty dire times for Florida State. They proceeded to go 5-7 last year, despite a not necessarily shocking, but like kind of a jolt to their season. Beating Alabama in the way they did in week 1, but that jolt didn't really hold any weight. It was like a flash in the pan. Like I said, they ended up going 5-7, and they're still scrambling for answers on how to turn this program around. Get it, to the Jimbo Fisher days. That's the glory they're searching for. Sanders?
When I was gonna do this, I was planning out, like, if I had to do the intro for this, I was gonna be like, Florida State had a great season last year. They go 1-0, a top 5 win, and finish ranked inside the top 10. So great season by Florida State.
Yeah, that is about where the season ended. Probably.
Did they start 2-0?
Because then I think they played a couple.
Yeah, they played a couple cupcake games
and beat up on them. So maybe like 2-0, 3-0, and then the wheels fell off. JP, based on the win total, which you are about to share with us, does Vegas think they are going to turn it around this season?
Win total 6.5, and the under is favored.
So not really.
Not really.
Vegas thinks they will be 6-6, really kind of at best. They're also in a not good spot in that for me, the not good spot is I just don't trust their quarterback play this year.
Yep.
With Ashton Daniels at the helm. While he was surprisingly pretty good in the Iron Bowl against Alabama, he'll get a chance to go this time to Tuscaloosa later this year against Alabama again. I just don't trust him as that can lead this Florida State team back in the right direction. I much more trusted quarterback like Tommy Castellanos last year, even with what Tommy had said in the preseason. He at least backed it up.
True.
They beat Alabama.
It gave him aura.
After that.
And then you watch the rest of the season.
No, but I didn't watch the rest of the
aura
season. I
drain
watched
was
that
a
game.
slow-
I watched that game and did not watch another Florida State game the rest of the year.
Okay.
And so Tommy Castellanos in my mind will always have aura.
Sure,
because
because it takes immense aura to beat your Alabama Crimson Tide.
We're not.
Like that's the only way
Let's not do
that
this.
anyone could beat your sweet Crimson Princes.
In my notes, I have a category. So I laid it out. I was like, last year, what was their record? What's their schedule this year? And then I have a section entitled Big Changes. And, that was me trying to highlight quarterback changes, coaching changes. And in the big changes category for Florida State, I put no changes done that were big enough. Not a big enough change. They're running it back with Mike Norvell.
Sign of they're broken to get their money up.
Yep.
Because that's the only way he's still around.
Yeah, and I think many Florida State fans would agree with me that they would much rather see my notes say new head coach brought in to replace Mike Norvell, Lane Kiffin, or something. I don't know what Florida State fans wanted.
I mean,
but,
at this point, they maybe would just let us three joint head coach the team and be like, that's better than Mike Norvell.
I mean, JP's got timeouts, as he's always said. You can be the OC.
I can delegate really well. I'll find someone else to call plays and be like, you can have 50% of my salary.
I will say, so there's the negative side is I'm not a Norvell believer. I as to let y'all know I'm on your side. Y'all should have been in the playoffs in 2023. I'll say that.
That really makes them feel better.
I think the guy should have eaten the cup of stuff. None of this would have happened. Like, I'm one of y'all. I'm not a Florida State fan, but I'm trying to let y'all know that I'm a friendly face.
At the same time.
The Florida State fan base does not deserve this. It was brought upon them, kind of like the sins of Adam and Eve have caused the rest of us to suffer.
So you're saying it's not deserved for us?
All right, we're not going to get into a biblical discussion. I was trying to make a fun analogy. The one guy didn't eat the cup, and now all of Florida State fans must suffer. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that y'all are suffering. Fortunately, you get to watch some fun player this year. Deuce Robinson had 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns last year. And maybe things get turned around, right? The offensive line right now is projected to have 5 new starters. So when you have a team that goes 5-7, what's one way to get better is
not a bad thing. Yeah.
Change everything. Because when you change everything, you're either going to be better or worse, but you're not going to be the same as you were last year. So offensive line is expected to have 5 new starters, 13 transfers projected to start according to our lads. So they're making changes. I don't think they're going to be enough. They had the 9th ranked portal class in the ACC and the 8th ranked high school class. So I just don't know if there's going to be enough pieces put together. I'll go ahead and say how they win the ACC is Norvell finally hits on the portal class like he did in 2023. It's been hit and miss, and it was a hit in 2023, and it's been misses the last 2 years. It's just not worked out, and so that's how they're going to do it if it happens. But I'll go ahead and pick what's the spread? It was
6.5.
6.5. I'll go ahead and take the under. Looking at their schedule, they play SMU, who is one of the favorites. They play at Alabama. They play at Louisville. They play at Miami. They play Clemson at home. They play at Pitt, and then they play NC State at home and Florida at home. I just don't see a lot of teams on there.
Yeah,
I think the biggest issue with Florida State is I just don't trust them right now. Like, I don't trust Mike Norvell to go out and coach a winning football game. And I wonder if the players feel the same way. I mean, the way the team has fallen apart the last couple of years, and the way the team fell apart last year after the way they started so hot and they looked so impressive in that first week. I just have to wonder where the locker room is at and where the headspace of all the players is. Because, like, if I don't trust them and I'm on the outside, like, I don't know. I just have a lot of concerns about how that team will look this year. And I do think that with another year of coaching, the buyout goes down, right? And so I would not be surprised to see a new face
They're probably one bad season away from just like planting evidence in his office.
for cause, so they can
to get
fire him for cause.
fire him for cause. I'm also gonna take the under basically for what you said to kind of finish your spiel, and it's really hard to trust this Florida State team, led by who they're led by, to put together a good season. Like I just will bank on that not happening, even though yes, the roster's not as talented as it used to be, but I still believe theoretically this roster should be plenty good enough to get to 7, maybe 8 wins. The ACC isn't necessarily the toughest conference, but yeah, I'm just not going to trust Mike Norvell to be the guy to lead this team to that.
It's not a good sign when I'm looking at opponents like Pittsburgh, NC State, Louisville, Virginia going, I don't know if Florida State's got it in them. Like you said, those teams are not powerhouses. And yet I look at those, and when I think about Florida State, all I can think is I don't think Florida State's going to win more than half those games.
Dude, that Virginia-Florida State game was so cool last year. That field rush was great.
Yeah.
And little do we know Florida State just wasn't actually very good. But as a Virginia fan, that was awesome.
JP, over-under?
I'm going to take the under. I'm going to say something similar to Clemson and that get used to seeing this team on primetime games, especially early on in the season. That SMU game week 2 is pretty big. Like if they can somehow sneak out that win and then you're 2-0 going to Alabama, that maybe suddenly we're looking at, game day contention maybe as Florida State comes to try and win 2 in a row against Bama. I don't know, pipe dream a little bit.
That's crazy.
But they at worst they're maybe 2-1 through those if they can sneak out that SMU game, and then the at Miami game will most certainly be on ESPN or ABC, and then the Clemson game as well could be potentially big. I think if I had to give a path for them to win the ACC, it would be what Duke did last year, and that is somehow win the tiebreakers because you have some kind of key win because they get to play 3-4, biggest favorites to win the ACC and SMU, Miami, Clemson, those teams, like having a little head-to-head tiebreaker, winning one of those games might sneak you into the ACC championship game. But like I said at the top, I don't trust the quarterback play in Ashton Daniels. And I am a cinnamon roll hater as a Clemson Tiger fan. So I'm going to take the under just out of spirit.
Valid.
I think they play the 6 favorites. I think they play Miami, SMU, Louisville, Clemson, Pitt, and Virginia. I think those are, correct me if I'm wrong, step in and say so. But SMU, Virginia, Louisville, Miami, Clemson, Pitt. Yeah, they play the 6 favorites in 8 of their ACC matchups. That's a miserable schedule. I mean, that is the ACC gods were frowning upon them. And the man who
gotta eat the poop.
Sometimes you just gotta eat the poop, man. It is what it is, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, let's get on to Georgia Tech.
Let me get the other graphic up. Take it away.
Georgia Tech went 9-4 last year, which very good season. Very good season for Georgia Tech. I do think for some it was a bit of a disappointing season, kind of based on the expectations and based on how some of the losses happened. And now, sadly, Sweet Prince Haynes King is now gone. Gave everything to that program, and they're gonna have to look to replace him. But yeah, went 9-4 in 2025. JP, what's the win total for 2026?
For 2026, the win total is 6.5.
So a bit of a drop off. It does, once again, I think that's why last year can feel like a bit of disappointment, because it really felt like that was a culmination of a couple years of having some studs in the program, having Haynes King, and that was kind of the crescendo, and the wave maybe didn't get quite as high as we expected it to. The crest wasn't as cool and as epic, and now they're sliding back down potentially.
Yeah. Well, I may be wrong, but I believe Vegas had their win total. Vegas was not as high on Georgia Tech, I don't think. Maybe JP would remember better. But I feel like I remember a Josh Pate episode where he was talking about how he was hammering the over on Georgia Tech because Vegas was so low on them relative to a lot of people who were like, oh my gosh, this team just went to 8 overtimes with Georgia. King is back. Jamal Haynes is back. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
I believe Vegas was low on them last year, so it might be a more of a continuing where Vegas thinks they left off, as opposed to, like maybe maybe they had them overachieving the last 2 years, and so they're just going to continue to stick to their guns.
And
that might be what it is.
That is true. I mean, and they did try and make splashes in the portal to replace Haynes King, and help bolster the running back. I mean, they brought in Justice Haynes from Michigan. Fernando Mendoza's brother,
Alberto
Mendoza, found his way to Georgia Tech. I don't know. Is he listed, projected to be the starter? I'm assuming.
Yes, I believe he is.
Yes.
They lost several key pieces. So they
Yeah.
lost Haynes King. They lost Jamal Haynes. We mentioned both them. They lost their leading wide receiver, Malik Rutherford. They lost their third wide receiver in Eric Rivers. Both those guys are gone. And so, yeah, this is a new era, and kind of a new opportunity for Brent Key to see what he can do with this new situation. Alberto Mendoza comes in, has not played a lot. He's a redshirt sophomore, I believe. I believe he's spent the last 2 years at Indiana, one of them behind his older brother, Fernando. Gig'em? Is that a Gig'em from JP?
No, I was just saying, thumbs up. That's correct.
It is. Yeah, thank you for the affirmation. I appreciate that. And so those are kind of the two guys I have to watch, is Alberto and Justice Haynes. That's going to get so confusing. The fact that they went from Jamal Haynes to Justice Haynes.
Well, that's why when saying it, I had a kind of a mental brain fart, because I was like, wait, isn't Justice Haynes the guy that just left?
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, that is the Michigan guy. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is really confusing. I agree.
Last year at Michigan, he had 800 yards and 7 touchdowns, so a pretty productive season. From an offense that was certainly not firing on all cylinders. And
not at all.
yeah, I'll go ahead and say how they win the ACC is that they miss out on playing the two favorites in SMU and Miami. They do play some of the other favorites in Clemson,
It's in their blood.
Pitt,
I think
Virginia.
is really how they win it.
And Alberto learned some incredible lessons sitting behind Fernando, and we have Mendoza go number 1 overall back-to-back seasons.
Have either of y'all heard an interview from Alberto Mendoza?
Uh-uh.
I'm like, is he like his brother? I can't wait for the first interview then.
I may have to
after
go.
Their first win,
I think they've had
or
one.
after,
I may have to go watch tonight.
Yeah, he had to have done some media availability during spring practice.
Yeah.
Media days, something. Because I gotta know, is he copycat Mendoza in terms of Mendoza's kind of dorky interview style, or is he just completely different?
See, if
maybe
really,
he's this really cool, slick character.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like a Justin Herbert.
I'm not necessarily who I would have gone with, but what if he's a Tommy Castellanos?
That'd be crazy.
Complete, just different.
To really check it, you would need to go back to his maybe the beginning of last year at Indiana. Maybe he did some sort of spring off-season media days.
Surely Georgia Tech's done something he's in.
Well, but I'm saying you need to find it before Fernando's whole personality went viral and it became a whole bit. Because you got to compare him and see oh, was he one way a year and a half ago, and now he's trying to be like his older brother.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, you just got to compare him.
Like Fernando.
But that's how they win the ACC. JP, you got any more thoughts on Fernando and this Georgia Tech squad?
Well, Alberto.
Thank you, Alberto.
That may be the best bet for Alberto. No slight to him, but pretending like he is Fernando might help him out there. He's not as big as Fernando. He's just 6'2", so he's gonna hurt him there. But if he, acts the same, which if you act the way Fernando did last year, just from a leadership perspective, I do think that would behoove Alberto going forward. But one of the things I do want to mention that is going to affect Alberto and just this Georgia Tech team in general is they changed both coordinators coming into this season, bringing back an old coordinator and George Godsey for the offensive side of the ball, and then Jason Seymour returns, or not? He does return. Sorry, returns to Georgia Tech. So 2 guys returning. Seymour was the defensive coordinator at Southern Miss last year. Southern Miss led college football in interceptions with 23. So maybe some good things to look forward there for Georgia Tech.
How many of those were thrown by a Mississippi State quarterback? Any?
I actually can't remember.
Not to derail you, but I just I'm like,
I don't remember shaping third one. Also, I don't think it's just going to be Justice Haynes either. I do want to give some credit to Malachi Hosley. who last year ran for 700 yards and
Good point.
7 yards per carry. So I do think they got two guys that they can go to. Really, the only guy worth watching on the defensive side of the ball is going to be E.J. Lightsey, who led the team in tackles last year. But this is it's a new era for Brent Key, the non-Haynes King era. And so I think people are going to be tuning into George Tech and maybe expecting to see similar things to the Haynes King era. I don't expect them to look that way. I think they'll look a lot different, and that may be for the better because the kind of style that they had with Haynes is not necessarily a style that's going to have a really, really high ceiling. It's going to have a really high floor, and that kind of showed last year, and a culmination and a loss in the Pop-Tarts Bowl to BYU. But I'll go ahead and make my pick on the win total. I'm taking the over 6.5. This Georgia Tech team really high on Brent Key. I mean, this is a guy who was in line for a lot of those SEC jobs, and he just didn't end up being the candidate that was picked. And I imagine he'll be in line for more SEC jobs going forward, like the Ole Miss job after it opens at the end of this season. Kidding, of course. Good luck to Pete Golding. But I'm excited for the Georgia Tech season. I'm excited for this new era. I will be attending at least one of the first two games, which they host Deion Sanders in Colorado in week 1. And they also host Josh Heupel in Tennessee in week 2. So two pretty big games to start the season for the Yellow Jackets. I'll be at one of those two. Can't wait to be at one of those two. It's probably more likely the Colorado game. We'll see.
Sure.
I'm going to take the over, though, on 6.5. I think Alberto and I think that offense will be better, but I do think they look different than that Haynes King quarterback power offense that we got so used to seeing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm taking the over as well. I'm a Brent Key truther, so.
I'll also take the over. He has not had a team with less than 7 wins when he was the interim for 2022 and went 4-4. But in the 3 seasons where he's been the head coach, wire to wire, he's gone 7-6, 7-6, and then 9-4 this last year. So, I mean, he's gone over 6.5 every year he's been the head coach for the entire season. And I like him a lot, So, I'm a Brent Key stan. Let's see if he can do it one more time. Well, not one more time, but another time. Louisville. Give me just a sec. Take it away.
Yeah, Louisville went 9-4 in 2025. Faltered a bit down the stretch. Pretty good season. Once again, faltering down the stretch. It kind of felt like maybe there's a little bit more there. Offense maybe wasn't as juicy and didn't click as much as a lot of Jeff Brom offenses have in the past, but injuries played a large part to that. And, only so many things you can do to avoid that. And they'll look to bounce back in this 2026 campaign. JP, what do you got the win total at?
The win total for Louisville and Jeff Brom this year is 7.5, and over 7.5 is a pretty heavy favorite as well.
Love to hear that. One of the things to keep an eye out for them will be obviously quarterback play. I went back and looked just because, I feel like Jeff Brom gets this rap as a guy who just churns out transfer portal quarterbacks. And the last 3 starters have been Jack Plummer, 3,200 yards, Tyler Shuck, 3,200 yards, and then most recently Miller Moss with that 2,700-yard total. So he kind of has. But now he gets an opportunity, I would argue, with probably the most talented on paper. I mean, Kindholtz is a guy who was at Ohio State. Even not the most talented on paper, very highly pedigreed. Was at Ohio State, battled it out with Julian Sayin.
He was,
and
yeah,
it
was
a
third.
Close bat. Was it third?
I think I had him. I'm pretty sure he was third to Tavion St. Clair as well.
Aren't you just saying that because you had Tavion taking the job and all the Ohio State fans on the TikTok were like, this guy is not starting? JP trying to push his narrative. That's fair. That's fair.
I won a national championship with Tavion at James Madison. So
Maybe they should have started
he's my guy.
Tavion.
Maybe.
I mean, Julian Sane did a whole lot of good for him.
Anyways,
But I will say, like, Joe Burrow was quarterback 3 for Ohio State at one point. So
we were talking earlier. When's the last time an Ohio State transfer hasn't worked out and been successful? Quinn Ewers goes to Texas and is successful. Doesn't make the playoffs, but he's good.
he made the playoff.
Made the playoff. Thank you.
He
Made the
playoff
playoffs
last
in 2023.
Michael Penix took him out.
That's right. But Quinn Ewers, Joe Burrow, Kyle McCord even goes to Syracuse and puts up some crazy numbers. Is Keinholz just the next guy up in this Ohio State transfer? Then you threw out a name. Who was the guy you threw
I
out?
brought up Tate Martell.
So that was Jack's last guy to transfer out of Ohio State.
Well, first I brought up Devin Brown, who went to Cal and then got benched for JKS.
Yeah, but that's like going to I don't know, the Commanders and free agency, like getting benched by Jaden Daniels.
I mean, it's just you're gonna hear about the success stories more than the guys that transfer and never make it anywhere else. But I do appreciate the Jaden Daniels glaze.
Yeah,
like
he's
means
just
a
the
lot
first
to me.
like young like star that I could think of. I was meant to say
See,
Jackson
even better.
Dart.
Just called him a star.
I was about to say
like,
Jackson Dart.
Well, thank you for not saying that.
Although his football cards are some of the most valuable rookie cards out there right now.
I mean, he plays in New York, so that kind of makes sense.
Players to watch. Isaac Brown is my player to watch. As a freshman in 13 games, he had 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. And then last year as a sophomore in 9 games, he had 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's a beast. And so he's kind of the guy I'll be keeping my eye on to see how he meshes with the transfer quarterback, how the offense looks as a whole, because right now if you go to our lads, it is a lot of yellow. Yellow is transfers. 8 guys. 8 transfers expected to start. 4 offensive linemen, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and then obviously all the quarterbacks are transfers. There's a lot of new faces in this Louisville program, but Jeff Brom's a winner, right? He's been winning. Won 9 games last year. They expect him to win again this year. He's put guys in the league, and so I know which direction I'll be going, but do you all want to give your thoughts before I talk about how they win the ACC?
I don't really have tons of thoughts. It is JP's thoughts, so take it away, JP.
Do it. My player to watch would be Clev Lubin, edge rusher. If you played college football at all this past season, he's a guy, you know his name because he was like a top 100 transfer portal recruit in pretty much every cycle. He just always left Louisville, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get Clef Lubin, and he's gonna help out our pass rush." I like the Isaac Brown shout, very dynamic. So I think they're gonna be in a good spot with Keinholz and Isaac Brown, and then Clef Lubin just returning in general. When he in the video game left every single time, returning in real life is huge for the Cardinals. I do want to go ahead and mention, because it is the first game of the season for them, the Nashville Music City kickoff against Ole Miss on Sunday. Would you guys like to guess the spread on that game right now?
Ole Miss 4.5.
Ole Miss 6.5.
Ole Miss favored by 6.5. So Louisville is very live in that game. We are all going to be Cardinals fans.
Is that the game where Ole Miss realizes they made a massive mistake giving the head coaching job to Pete Golding?
Yeah, they're going to lose that game 70-65. They're going to realize that Pete Golding can't manage the defense, and the offense is still going to be good because Trinidad Chambliss.
The clock has struck midnight on Trinidad Chambliss.
Continue, JP.
That was really all I wanted to mention. Was I'm taking Louisville plus 6.5.
Okay.
Right now, go ahead and put that down as the first pick for 2026.
I thought you were going to say your first best bet, and I was like, we're getting ambitious with best bets out here, making the pick 2 months out. Like, that's bold. That's bold.
I didn't even think about that. Let's go ahead and put it down. JP's best bet right
there. Can we get the banner up?
Can we get the JP? What did you go last season in college football? You were like 1-18 or something in best bet, something like that.
Let's be nice.
It was terrible.
How Louisville wins the ACC? It's schedule based primarily. So you only play 2 of the top 6 favorites to win the ACC. They are one of those. So the number sounds bigger than it is. You avoid 3 of the top 6.
Sure.
And the 2 opponents that you do face are both at home SMU and Pitt both come and play in Louisville. And then my other key to winning the ACC, or the other way they win the ACC, is they win the close games. Last year they lost 2 games in overtime and then had a 1-point loss to Clemson. You flip that, and they're trying to do math, 7-1 in the ACC. I believe if those were all 3, they may not have been conference losses. I apologize, but it's a better record, right? This is a team that we're talking about being a double-digit win team coming into this year. And I believe the portal class is not at all. I think it might have been second. Let me go double check that. First, they had the highest ranked portal class in the ACC, and so that's another thing to keep your eye on as we take this into consideration. They brought in 5 4-stars, brought in 34 guys. After
That's
losing
got to be
30.
volume shooting.
But no, this is ranked. This is on threes. It takes into account like your change, right? Your net gain, I believe.
They probably didn't lose a ton of big hitters.
Yeah, they didn't lose a lot of great pieces, and they brought in some impactful pieces as well. So this is a team I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to watch Jeff Brom.
Excited to watch him beat Ole Miss week 1.
I'm very excited for that, and I didn't hype him up enough. The dude has won 10 games, 9 games, and 9 games his 3 years as a Louisville head coach. So
perfect segue into my pick, which is an over.
Yeah,
like he's operating at a very high floor. Like he has his program operating at a very high floor. They haven't necessarily broken through and had that truly elite season and that college football playoff berth. But with the way this is trending, you kind of got to think there's going to be a season at some point, maybe not this year, where they do kind of, win a couple of the big games and find their way into the playoffs and that ACC championship game, So I'm going to take the over. I feel very comfortable taking that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over as well. I feel like that first game, you get that win against Ole Miss, that immediately puts you on the radar of, is this the team that comes out of the ACC that isn't Miami or SMU or Clemson? But I'm going to go ahead and preface this as I'm taking the over. I'm going to take over 7.5 wins. I'll take the favorite on that. I think they get to 9 or so. Just as quickly as I made Louisville plus 6.5 at best bet, I'm going to take whatever the line is. Now, this is contingent. If they beat Ole Miss, I'm taking whatever the line is, Villanova plus the points. They go from Sunday playing in Nashville to playing on Friday against Villanova. And this is a Villanova team that was in the semifinals of the FCF championship last year. A good Villanova team. Watch out for Villanova to maybe upset Louisville, but I'm going to take the points. Go ahead and put that down as a contingent. If they beat Ole Miss, this is one of my best bets for week 2 of the college football season. But I say all that to say, I'm going to take the over on Louisville's win total.
Not just FCS semifinal appearances, NBA champion Villanova. That's it. Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there because it was funny.
Kentucky had a large part to do with that as well.
I thought it was 4 Villanova guys.
So did Georgia Tech.
Just 3, I believe.
Just 3?
Because they shipped off Dante DiVincenzo.
Yep.
So
tough.
Georgia Tech did have a big role to play in that. You are correct. Could argue Marquette had a little bit of play as well, even if it was in the mostly in the regular season. He got a couple minutes here and there. So
next up, Miami, the Hurricanes, the U.
Yeah, I mean, massive success of a season in 2025 for Miami. Getting all the way to the precipice of bringing home a national championship. Couldn't quite get it done. Fernando Mendoza is just
the precipice.
too much of a winner. But yeah, you were right there. Carson Beck ended up being a great transfer portal get, even though it was somewhat heavily criticized. It was at least a very divisive portal get. This time around, their portal QB get is much more universally loved in terms of his talent and his play, and that is Darren Minsa. He comes in, he brings his leading receiver with him. Obviously, the freshman phenom, Malachi Toney, is back as well, and a ton of other talent on that roster. They're going to look to run it back. Does Vegas agree with kind of that assessment that they have a good chance of running it back? What's their win total, JP?
Well, you talk about the returning piece like Malachi Toney, the transfer piece, and Darren Minsa. They also returned both coordinators, which for a team to make the national championship is just impressive to do.
Sure.
So Vegas takes all that into account, takes their schedule into account. They're favored to win more than 10 games in the regular season. they're favored to be an 11-win team or even an undefeated team through the regular season. So Vegas completely agrees that this is a team that they fully expect to run it back. This will not be like a Miami finally returns kind of year. This is a Miami should already be back as one of the premier programs in college football.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, for them to be back, they're going to have to overcome a lot. They lost a lot of important pieces from last year's championship runner-up. They lost every O-lineman who played over 1,000 snaps. I believe that was 4 guys that they lost, so they're having to backfill. But none of these guys that they're projected to start right now, at least from what I've seen, are transfers. It's all guys from in-house. It's a redshirt junior, a redshirt senior, a sophomore, a redshirt senior, and then my guy to watch, a freshman, Jackson Cantwell, the number 1 player in the country. So there's a lot of changes, and that's going to be an important determination, an important factor for how the season goes is were they right in their evaluations of these guys in high school. That's the first thing. The second thing is they've got a top 5 ACC portal class where they write number 3, where they write in their evaluation of these guys in the portal. That's how I've got them winning the ACC is be right. Be right when you evaluated all these guys who are about to start as redshirt juniors and true juniors. Be right when you evaluated them 3 years ago. Have, hindsight, have developed them properly over the last 2 to 3 years for each of these guys. That's kind of the big thing is if they did all those things properly, I think Cristobal showed last year that he can win games. I mean, obviously, they won 13 games. They went to the national championship. There were none of...
You want a game in Kyle Field. That's no small feat.
Yep. Not
beat
many...
beat the Ohio State team.
Beat Ohio State,
yeah.
Exactly. Didn't have one of those Georgia Tech run the ball when you should have just knelt it. Like, it felt like he grew out of a lot of the meme plays that people talked about at the end of the season. Is like, I cannot believe Mario Cristobal did this.
The Carson Beck 4 interception game was pretty great.
Yeah, but
it's not nearly as bad as the rest of the ones.
Yeah, that's not as on par with the
Correct.
decisions that he made.
Correct.
Now, I guess he made the decision to bring in Beck, which I'm really excited. This is for Miami fans, so Duke fans are not here anymore. I'm really excited to see Darian Mensah play for this Miami team. Like, I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
It hurts a little bit, man.
It hurts to watch, but if you just shut down the part of your brain that's like, dang, this sucks, he's going to have Cooper Barkate.
I'm actually not at all. I really dislike Miami.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's tough.
Call me salty or whatever.
He's also going to have Mark Fletcher in the backfield, who is a guy that I had kind of forgotten about. But if you remember, I feel like he broke onto the scene in the playoffs. I'm sure that most people knew about him all season long, but I feel like the way he played in the playoffs, 3 of his top 4 scrimmage yards.
He was the guy. He was their guy in the playoffs.
3 of the top 4 total yardage games. His highest yardage games were in the playoffs. He had 2 touchdowns in the national championship game against Indiana. Like, I feel like he kind of was a sensation, right? People were talking about, like, oh my gosh, this. And then the championship, obviously, he had the 2 touchdowns. Like, he was huge. And then at wide receiver, like I said, he's got Cooper Barkate, who followed him from Duke. He's got Malachi Toney, the sophomore, the real best 17-year-old football player that we've seen in the last 2 years at wide receiver. So I am excited to see what this offense looks like. I think it could look similar to what we saw 2 years ago with Cam Ward and that offense and the way it produced. And I think now they figured out some of the defensive aspects, and I expect them to be much better than they were 2 years ago to complement this offense. Other guys to watch, like I said, Mensah, Barkate, Fletcher, Cantwell. How do those offensive players play? And then the big one on defense, one of their only expected transfers to start, Damon Wilson, the second, who they brought in from Missouri, had 8 sacks last year. He's another big piece in that defensive line, which is going to be expected to be another good defensive line, even in spite of losing Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain to the NFL draft in the first round.
Sure. Yeah, a couple things. It really is going to come down to the line play and the revamped line, and can they hold up? Because that's been their biggest area of improvement. I mean, you just mentioned the Cam Ward team. It was like that team scored a ton of points, but they weren't really big enough and physical enough up front, especially defensively. And then also the secondary was really bad. Like, they've really shored up kind of the more fundamental parts of the game. Sound like a boomer. And was that kind of a one-off, or are they just going to be able to replace it and just kind of reload in those areas? I don't expect it to be a one-off, but it's just a worry I have. And second, That may be the first time in the history of the show someone has let off a player to watch segment and listed an offensive lineman. You don't see that very often.
No. JP did it last year with Utah with Lomu and what's his name?
Were they let off though, or was his boy Devon Dampier?
It may have been
Spencer
Dampier.
Fano.
Spencer Fano. Thank you. Wait, I said Fano and
Lomu. You
Lomu.
started with
Yeah,
Lomu.
I started with Lomu. Did I? No, I mean I started with Mensa.
Sure.
I mean
okay.
he's
Still
first.
very rare.
Cantwell is fourth on the notes.
you know-
He's behind Mensa, Barkate, and Fletcher.
Sanders is just a big tape grinder.
Hey,
He
I'm a
loves
big
seeing
O
how
line guy.
good- yeah.
I'm a big O line guy. Y'all know from my NFL takes, I think the run game always starts with the offensive line. I would rather have the best offensive line and the 32nd best running back than the 32nd best offensive line and the best running back.
Putting together the best offensive line has worked out really well for your Chargers.
They're not on the field. Doesn't count. Let's talk college football. We're not here to talk NFL. Let's pick over under. You said it was 10.5, JP?
Yeah, 10.5. I'll go ahead and go first. I got a few thoughts, and then I'll go ahead and go into the pick. I do think one thing to look at for this Miami team this year is, hoping that the thing that plagued this team and the team that Darian Minsa was on last year doesn't follow into this year. And that's turning the football over. Carson Beck and his 4 picks versus Louisville and his 2 picks against SMU, 2 losses. The season ends on an interception against Indiana. And then for the Duke team, I mean, to outgain a team and still lose 45-19 is, as we talked about earlier, is pretty substantial. And there were other games too where turning the football over is just a problem for Duke. It wasn't fully Darian Minsa's fault. A lot of it was receivers and running backs fumbling the football, but you just hope that doesn't follow him into Miami. And Miami fans, of course, hope that doesn't follow them into this year. To go into picking it though, I'm gonna take the under on 10.5 wins. I look at their schedule and I see 4 games that I think could be toss-ups. And if they're toss-ups, that means you go 50-50 on them. You go 2-2, and that looks like a 10-2 season to me. Those 4 games are, of course, the first big one is when they host Central Michigan and the Chippewas. Massive game. I say that because that's my go-to team in college football dynasty is the Chippewas.
Sure.
But the week after that, at Clemson, is a pretty big game. I expect that to be a night game as well. I think the ACC will just give that to Clemson and make that a night game in Death Valley, and we're looking at a potential ABC game as well. And then at Notre Dame is a massive game. And something I'm looking at is the Virginia Tech game towards the end of the season when James Franklin comes to town. Is there a chance that maybe Virginia Tech gets a little bit of revenge on Miami in Miami? Of course, we all remember what you may remember now that I mention it, the infamous Hail Mary missed call when Virginia Tech should have beat Miami. And they called it a lot like the Packers Seahawks replacement refs call when it should have been a touchdown for Virginia Tech. It should have been a win for the Hokies. So I'm looking at that game as well late in the season. I'll take the under. I do think this team though is still a playoff team if they're 10-2. Especially if one of the losses is Notre Dame, they may still be in the ACC championship game and have the chance to play for that with only one ACC loss. This is definitely a playoff or bust team, and definitely a team that feels like, national title is right there on the horizon when you have a quarterback potentially as good as Jerry Minsa, and you got a cover athlete, Malachi Toney. I just think the expectations for this team is going to be at worst, hosting a first-round playoff game at the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the under. I have to feel like fantastic about a team to take the over at 10.5. And I do think this Miami team is going to have a really, really good season, but I wouldn't say I feel fantastic about them, so I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the over, I think. Like I said, I'm really excited to watch this offense play. I know Jack said he's not a Miami guy, and it does suck that, Mensa got taken from Duke at the last second. But it's going to be a good offense. It's going to be a really high-powered offense, and I think that the defense, after the changes they made to that defensive staff, were leaps and bounds better last year than 2 years ago. So I'm going to take the over, and we can go ahead and move on to North Carolina. Man, this is going to be fun. Cannot wait to have this conversation. The Bill Belichick Tar Heels.
Yeah, North Carolina, not the best first year for Bill Belichick, which for most people that was expected.
Second year, right?
Last year was his second year.
Yeah.
No,
I'm pretty
Am
sure
I
it's his
just
first year. I
crazy?
think you're crazy.
it was his first year.
I think you're crazy.
All
It
right.
was just a fever dream of a year because he opened the year hosting TCU.
And the amount of different quarterbacks that played, it did probably
Oh,
feel
yeah, that
like,
was his first year. That feels like he's been
it was
here
multiple
for so
years. I mean,
long.
I mean, the year does
Wait,
start
so the
off
whole
big,
Gio Lopez thing was like a little over a year ago, where like they landed him and he was gonna be the guy.
and then he played some, and then Max Johnson played some, and then someone else played some, and then it was back to Gio Lopez, and then back
That
to Max Johnson.
Feels like so long ago.
Quite the season, and I'm glad JP brought it up because I
Oh my
would just
God.
like to remember the opening drive they had against TCU where it was like, holy crap, Bill Belichick still got it.
Yeah.
Update, not really. And not really
Breaking
as
news.
generous. They're going to look to bounce back. I'll lead off just with they are returning the least amount of production in the ACC, which, considering they weren't very good, may not be a bad thing. JP, what does Vegas have to say about their win total for 2026?
Win total for a Bill Belichick football team is 4.5.
Not great, Bob.
The over is favored on that.
Yeah.
But 4.5, that's got to be the lowest ever.
Sure. So I kind of mentioned their QB carousel they had going on last year. Have they kind of locked that in this year better, Sanders, or is it going to be maybe more of the same? We got a QB battle going on. He's going to have to figure it out.
I didn't even write down in my notes who the quarterback is going to be Billy Edwards, the transfer from Rutgers, I believe, is where he came from.
So he didn't start at Rutgers then.
Let me double check.
Wisconsin.
Other
I would say
red Big Ten school.
Athan Callum.
Yeah, Kalliakmanis, something like that.
The Washington Commander.
Yeah. But Billy Edwards comes over from Wisconsin. He transfers in now that Gio Lopez is gone. After that huge recruiting win from Bill Belichick like 18 months ago and not 3 years ago like I thought it was.
He'll probably his second biggest recruiting win over the past like 2-3 years.
Yeah, probably.
Number one being Jordan Hudson.
Anyway, a lot of big changes. They ranked 15th in the country with 31 players leaving, and had the 63rd ranked portal class. It's not a good look. The 16th ranked portal class in the ACC, behind teams like Stanford, Wake Forest, Boston College.
Well, Bill Belichick just like he's treating it like a pro team, so he just views talent differently. He finds it where other people don't see it.
So that's why he went and got 3-4 stars out of high school as well?
Yeah.
How does he... I can't wait to see how he views this talent.
I mean, this is like him drafting D2 guys in the NFL draft and always drafting, non-consensus top 50 guys in the first round.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, there's a couple players to watch. One of them, like you said, Billy Edwards, I would say he's listed as a starter right now in our lads, but there's other guys who could start. The one that I've got written down is Miles O'Neal.
We'll take it to the monitor. JP's hand is
JP,
raised.
we've got a monitor, a hand raise.
I think they're going to start Taron Dickens. West Carolina transfer.
Okay.
Is he on your roster?
He's not on the roster that I see.
Let's see.
Confirm that?
Yeah.
He's on the roster that I've got.
Who did you just make up?
Terrence Dickens.
I didn't make up anyone.
Can I?
Sure, they can sort by position,
wait,
right?
I'll just search. Wait, this is the Mac. I don't know how to search. I'm looking for. Oh, it's alphabetical. It's alphabetical. B, C, D. JV, I do not see anyone named Terrence Dickens.
His hand is re-raised. What's his admission?
Is this last year's roster that you're looking at?
He's still with Western Carolina.
So if you're watching Western Carolina game, keep your eye out. Terrence will probably be starting for West Carolina.
Well, I do want to say, like, I pulled the name and then I just went straight to his stats I guess I never re-looked at the logo, but he was elite last year. He had 38 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Dude, they should have gone and got this guy.
They should have got him over Billy Edwards. He sounds like an improvement.
Why did they not go get him out of the portal?
Swing and a miss by Bill. I mean,
yeah, no clue. So I guess Billy Edwards is hurt, but he's not the best quarterback.
We're back on the Billy Edwards.
He's
train.
not. He is not the best quarterback in North Carolina. This guy, Terrence Dickens, is obviously better. Do they have a non-conference? Do they play each other? Is there a chance that we could see some sort of matchup of
Slim,
Billy Edwards?
But I guess it's possible.
Can we get a reschedule? Looks like they did not play. Let's get this back on track. Now that we have determined that Terrence Dickens is not on the roster, unfortunately.
So you have Billy Edwards as a guy you want to watch?
Miles O'Neal is another guy, a younger option than. Oh yes,
Gig'em, A&M transfer.
A&M transfer Miles O'Neal. That's why I actually wrote him down, is because he's younger than Billy Edwards, only a redshirt sophomore as opposed to Billy, who's a grad transfer. What are your thoughts on Miles O'Neal? Could he be the future for North Carolina and Bill Belichick?
Big arm, like great deep ball. It looks really pretty. Not the most mobile guy and not the most fine-tuned, but the arm talent is there. There's a chance he could be something. Like, there was a small contingent of A&M fans that were like, this is the future, because the arm talent really is there. But, I mean, we saw probably 20, 30 snaps of him this year. Not like he's really played a ton. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not like they got some bum. Like, there's maybe something there, but time will tell.
How do you feel that his offensive coordinator is now Bobby Petrino?
Maybe Bobby's got something for him. I don't know. I mean, last thing, like, he threw the best deep ball out of anyone in an A&M uniform last year. Like, threw probably 65-yard completion to some guy on a perfect post, and then followed it up with throwing the worst interception by someone in an A&M uniform last season. And let me tell you, Marcel Reed had some bad ones, so that's a pretty low bar, and he still beat it.
Yeah, Reed did have some bad ones. How North Carolina wins the ACC. This was a tough one, but I think I cooked something up. They fire Bill Belichick, and then the team does the thing where they play better for the interim than they did the regular coach, and then this interim goes on a streak, and then they win the ACC. It's pretty simple. It's probably the least complicated path.
Yeah,
in
when
the
you
ACC
put it like that, it's not bad at all.
of any team out there. It seems quite feasible.
4.5's the over/under.
JP, was that right?
I'm gonna take the under.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll probably give them 4 wins. I don't know, man. That's pretty low, but yeah, I'm just gonna give them. Let's just
wins. Run through the. I'll run through the schedule real quick. TCU,
loss.
Eastern Tennessee,
win.
Remember, the TCU game is the Ireland game, week 0.
Okay.
What was the stat about that? Where
if you lose, your season's cooked. Isn't that what it is?
That is right. So that's tough
perfect.
for North Carolina.
You don't even have to read the rest of the schedule.
Yeah,
they
just
won't
double
break
down,
4
double
wins
down.
if they lose in Ireland.
Under for Jack. JP, what do you got?
I'm going to take the under as well, because I think they lose their Ireland game to Sonny Dykes and TCU.
If they had Terrence, would you take the over?
Well, if they had Terrence,
okay.
The over-under would be 9.5.
Okay, well, true. You make a good point. If they had Terrence and the over-under for some reason was 4.5. It's pretty great numbers.
He was elite.
How much NIL money do you think he got to go back to Western
That's
Carolina?
Aaron Rodgers numbers right there. Like,
I'm guessing like $8 million.
Free McDonald's? I don't know. Like, I can't imagine they're offering much.
I'm going under on 4.5. I think it's gonna be another tough year for North Carolina. I think the Bill Belichick experiment is probably close to over. And I hope for North Carolina fans' sake it is. I feel like his tenure there has been marked by a lot more off the field stuff than on the field success or even on the field failure. It's not even like when you think about Bill Belichick in North Carolina, you don't think about on the field success or failure. You think about the off the field, the documentary getting canceled, the girlfriend, the videos and the photos of him like on the beach holding her up. Like there's so many things that come to mind before you even begin to think about him as a football coach. So I hope that I hope that North Carolina can get a fresh start in the coming years and we can start to see that program get back to the Sam Howell days, man.
For the Sam Howell days, what about like the Mitchell Trubisky days?
I'm a Mitchell Trubisky hater, so
okay.
I can't really. I just never thought he was good.
We all take the under.
Yep.
Let's move on to the next team. The next team is another North Carolina. JP would contend that this guy named Terrence is the best quarterback in North Carolina. But I would say C.J. Daniels showed us enough last year that I feel pretty confident. C.J. Bailey, excuse
C.J.
me.
Daniels is the wide receiver for Miami.
Yeah, he was, correct. But yeah, sorry. C.J. Bailey, I would contend that he is the best quarterback the state of North Carolina has. He was very good last season, was young, so sure there were some games, there were some growing pains, but I think he's ready to take another step forward and potentially lead this North Carolina team to a legitimately great or at least very good season. What are your all's thoughts? What does Vegas have first, JP, as the win total before we give our thoughts?
Yeah, Vegas win total for NC State is 7.5, and they're favored to go under on that. So expecting a good season from the Wolfpack, kind of building off of what was a not so bad season last year, 8-5.
Sure.
So in my notes for big changes, I don't really have any big changes because the coaching staff is pretty much the same. The quarterback is the same. They brought in like a couple wide receiver transfers, but no like big names. The guys they brought in, I don't think were super productive at their previous schools.
You should give me their names. I want to see. Like, do I recognize any of them?
JoJo Trader. I think it was like is it JoJo Trader from. It doesn't say. That's really unhelpful.
He came from like D2.
Miami.
Okay,
Came from Miami. Apologies. So JoJo traded from Miami, and then Davion Dozier, Davion
Shout
Dozier.
out Dozier, man. What a
from
dog.
App State and Arkansas.
That guy's
So
going to be good.
he might be with CJ Bailey throwing the ball. But here, while they don't have any huge upgrades, here's what they do have going for them. They won 8 games last year. They
Pretty
bring
good.
back their quarterback. They bring back their coaches. And then the big thing they have going for them is their schedule. Their schedule is a joke. In the ACC preseason odds, here are the teams they do not play. 1, 2, 4, 5. So they avoid 4 of the top 5. Here are the teams they do play.
Okay.
16.
Yeah.
Remember how many teams are in the ACC?
17.
Yes.
Which is so cool.
They play 16, 15, 14, 12, 11, and 9. So
Not bad.
6 of their 8 opponents are teams in the bottom half-ish. It's 17, so I guess technically not, but around the bottom half of the ACC. I mean, that is a ridiculously easy schedule. And so, yeah, I think we can get to picking over under in a minute, but that's kind of the big takeaway for me is they return their quarterback, their coaches, they've got the consistency in a lot of places, and now they've got a really easy schedule of opponents to face.
Yeah. That's I didn't know that. That's a great point. That's a cupcake.
It is.
Schedule.
It is a cupcake of a schedule.
They should feast on that.
JP, any other thoughts before we pick?
I do think Bailey's one of those guys that could rise to I won't say to the same level as like a Fernando Mendoza because while he is in like kind of the same spot Fernando was on draft boards last year going into at least this point going into the season. I'm not predicting him to win the Heisman and win the national championship, but he could rise all the way up into maybe first round consideration if he can put on some kind of show this season. And he'll have opportunities to do that while they don't play any of the big teams. Like the best team they play is out of conference and playing at Vanderbilt. He could put up numbers that could really put him in an interesting contention as a first round quarterback in a quarterback draft class that is supposed to be loaded. I put that in parentheses because
we've heard that a lot.
Last year's.
Yeah.
Guilty. I hyped up last year's draft class so much.
It happens.
But all right, over under. I'll go ahead and kick it off and say I think I'm going to take the over. Like I said, I look at that schedule, and I think that they should beat the 16th team in the projected, obviously, clarification, projected 16th, 15th, 14th, 12th, 11th, and 9th. That's 6 wins. Richmond is 7 wins. App State is 8 wins, and you just hit the over. And that's without counting, I think, California. Maybe they beat, Louisville's a home game. So, yeah, I'm taking the over here.
Give him the over. I already kind of like the over, and then you drop the little tidbit about the schedule being really light, so give him the over.
I'm gonna take the over as well. They get to play a very favorable schedule, as you said. And I was gonna make the same point you did, and that some of those kind of bigger games in the ACC outside of the Virginia game are at home. So I think that just favors the Wolfpack of NC State. I am glad, really glad they aren't playing Clemson this year because I do think that would have been a loss for the Tigers. The Wolfpack always give us trouble, and with a quarterback as good as CJ Bailey, that would have been not a sight you want to see, whether it was at NC State or at Clemson. So
Yeah.
give me the over though, 7.5.
How does it make you feel to know that they could be the A&M of this year for the ACC? They could go 11-1 and lose a home playoff game because it turns out that they just played a cupcake schedule.
We beat Notre Dame in Notre Dame. You can't hurt me. On to the next. Let's roll through these last few. Pittsburgh. Went 8-5 last season. Solid year. And I think the biggest development and even the biggest win for them last year was they entered the season with a lot of quarterback uncertainty. It was like Eli Holstein was going to probably be the starter, but, kind of the writing was on the wall with him. He wasn't probably going to be anything more than just okay. And then in trots a guy that at least going into the season was a complete unknown for me. Maybe Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh fans had an inkling that he was going to be something special or something good. But Mason Heinschel, no idea if I pronounced the last name correctly, but came in and played really well down the stretch as a young quarterback, and will look to continue that into next year. So that's kind of what I'm looking for with this team. But JP, what do you got from Vegas as the win total?
Vegas has Pittsburgh as favored to go over 7.5 wins this year.
Not a bad
and
number.
Just to piggyback on the Mason Heinschel point, he was definitely completely under the radar just as a true freshman for him to come into play that way. In fact, he was a semifinalist or just a finalist for the Sean Alexander Freshman of the Year award in the country, and then he was the first true freshman since Jameis Winston to have at least 3 games in his first 6 career starts of 3 touchdowns and 300 yards passing.
It's pretty good.
So this is a guy who really produced as a freshman, and I think it's got a lot of buzz going for those Panthers fans out there. If this may be a good season, and we can see some good quarterback play that we haven't seen since Kenny Pickett.
Sure. What do we got? Any big changes they've undergone this offseason, Sanders?
Actually, no. So as far as, obviously, they returned their head coach, Pat Narduzzi, and they're starting a lot of guys who've been in the program for at least a year or two. Only 5 transfers projected to start right now on our lads. And so that's how I've got them winning the ACC, is that all the returning players who are starters, not the same thing as returning starters, because a lot of these guys didn't start last year, gives them stability and consistency in a time when roster turnover takes teams weeks to get comfortable. And so that's kind of their path to winning the ACC as I have it. The schedule is not as easy as what we just talked about with NC State, right? You still play at Miami. You play at Louisville. You play at California, at Virginia Tech. It's not an easy schedule. And so it's going to take that kind of consistency and that kind of immediate chemistry to and they 3 of their first 4 games are non-conference games, so you kind of have that warm up. You've got a runway to get the season started. But once again, the bye week, just like we talked about, I think the first team that we talked about was Boston College, not till week 10. So you play 9 straight games before you get a bye week. It's going to be a long 9 weeks and a long 9-week stretch, and then you finish it out, Florida State, at Louisville, at California. It's going to be tough, but that's how they're going to get it done, I think, if they are going to get it done.
Sure. Anything else, or shall we pick over under?
I'm down to pick
7.5. Give me the over. 1-8 last year. I think this team has a chance to be a little bit better. You talked about kind of the retention, and then also just I'm a Mason guy, so give me the over.
I'm gonna take the under. I don't like the road games that they play, and of course I also don't like what Sanders outlined with the 9 straight games to start the season. But these are just really difficult road games. I would imagine 4 of the 5, not the Boston College game. Sorry, Boston College. But the other 4 road games that they play this year, they are not going to be favorites in Louisville, Miami, Virginia Tech, and California. And they're all going to be pretty big games as far as whether or not they get over the hump of that win total. So give me the under for the Pittsburgh Panthers.
Yeah, I'm taking the under as well. I got the same thought process. They lose 4 road games, and then you go from there. You only got to lose 1 more game, whether it's Syracuse with a healthy Steve Angeli, whether it's North Carolina with an interim head coach after Bill Belichick gets fired, or maybe it's Georgia Tech and Alberto is the second coming of Fernando. I just don't see them going undefeated in those other 8 games if they do lose those 4 road games as we both expect.
Sure.
SMU coming up. Take it away.
Yeah, SMU finished last year with a pretty strong 9 wins, and will look to, kind of find themselves at least back in that ballpark. They have, over the past couple years, established themselves as kind of a new face in the ACC, but not just like a Stanford kind of new face, the exact opposite. In fact, a new face in the ACC that actually brings something to the table in terms of the football played and the quality of the conference, and a new face that can challenge for ACC titles, and even making the college football playoffs. Do they have that in store again this year? We'll get to that, but at first, does Vegas think that they have that in store again this year? What does Vegas have their win total at, JP?
Vegas thinks they're going to be a 9-win team. Win total is 8.5, and they're a pretty heavy favorite to go over that 8.5. When you return coach and quarterback of a team that made the playoff 2 years ago, I think that's going to be fully expected.
Sure.
Yeah, so they returned the coach and the quarterback, and then they add another big piece. Kendrick Raphael had almost 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns at Cal last year. He comes in at running back to stay in that backfield with Kevin Jennings. And then to go with that, let's see, SMU, unfortunately, the 17th ranked high school class, so not a lot of young talent, but the 6th ranked portal class in the ACC. So they're bringing in some experienced guys, some vets, to try and put together another playoff run and get back to the playoffs. And the way they do that is Kevin Jennings. His experience, I think, is what's going to be really important and crucial this season for them to make a playoff run or to make it to the playoffs and make that run. He's got to be, at the end of the season, we got to feel like he was one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC this year. That's kind of what it's going to take. And then it's going to take that portal class contributing right away. But that's what I've got there. That's kind of how I'd have them winning it. Any other thoughts, JP?
Yeah, I wonder if is there a possibility that Jennings could end the season being viewed as the best quarterback in the ACC?
Absolutely. I didn't want to put that because I didn't want to be too bold there, but that was one of I typed it and deleted it where it was, it's going to take him being the best. I left it as one of the best, but I think that if we leave the season thinking that, then they probably made the ACC championship.
Yeah, I mean, I
fully agree.
If he is that, then they probably do. I think that maybe bar is a little too high. I think he's always going to be a quarterback that, due to his play style, there's a lot of mistakes, which in a lot of ways you live with it because, once again, because of his play style, those mistakes are balanced out by a lot of high highs and great plays and scrambles and whatnot. But that may be a little steep expectation-wise for me.
Ready to pick?
Sure. 8.5. I'm gonna take the under. I think it would maybe a slight step back. Still make a bowl game. And some of that comes because I have already picked a lot of overs.
You have picked a lot of overs. I mean, you've got 4 unders and 7 overs.
This is true, but I think they maybe take a little step back. Not quite a repeat of their 2024 season or even 2025 season.
I'm going to take the over. I'm looking at Rhett Lashley win totals, 11 wins, and 9 wins the last 3 years. Those are all 3 higher than the necessary, or as high or higher than the necessary 9 wins. So I'll pick him to do it again with his quarterback for the 3rd year in a row. So I'm going to bet on Rhett Lashley and the Mustangs.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over as well. If you kind of take an optimistic approach of looking at their schedule for this year, I think you could say, hey, maybe there's just one game that really scares us, and that's the Notre Dame game at the end of the year, which go ahead and look at that as like a very like big playoff implication game at the end of the year. That's already right there on top of the list. But if you were less optimistic, I think you should fear the Florida State game to begin the year, the Louisville game, and then we just don't know what we're going to see out of teams like Cal and Virginia Tech. So I think you can make an argument for both sides. But I'm going to take the over for SMU. I think Kevin Jennings, Rhett Lashley, I like the win total argument, Sanders, that makes me feel better about me taking the over as well. One guy I do want to shout out just because I love shouting out all of my small schools that I love. Yannick Smith, transfer from East Carolina, former Pirate, 6'3" receiver. I think he's going to be SMU's leading receiver this year. If we were doing our college football fantasy and we were more than just the SEC, he would be on pretty high on my draft board for this year. I think he's just going to have a good year in his final season in college. But given the over for SMU, I think this is a team that is a borderline ACC championship team. And I would not be shocked to see them playing in the ACC championship.
Yeah.
Cool. Stanford.
On to the next. So I talked about SMU as like a prominent new face in the ACC, post-conference realignment. Stanford's about the opposite. Haven't really provided much to this conference in way of football success or football prominence. Last year, went 4-8. JP, what is the win total for this year?
Stanford this year has an abysmal win total of 3.5 currently, and it is a coin flip.
Nice.
On 3.5.
Not what you want to hear as a Cardinal fan.
What big changes did they make, Sanders, to try and prevent another season where they only win a third of their games?
They brought Tavita Pritchard in as head coach back to Stanford, which, interestingly enough, in his 16-year coaching career, only 3 of those years was he not at Stanford. So that's something to kind of keep your eye on. He doesn't have a lot of experience in
He come from the Commanders?
Yeah, I believe he did. I think he spent 3 years there. So not a lot of experience doing things besides playing for and coaching for Stanford, which unfortunately when the last 16 years goes back to 2010, there's a couple years of success in there, I guess. You had Christian McCaffrey. You had some good years then. Andrew Luck, some good years. But especially recently, it's not been good. And so maybe the hope is that he kind of brings back that early 2010s and mid-2010s success and some of that winning that they had then. It's not great. They only brought in 6 portal players. I don't remember how many they lost, but it was a lot. They only lost 10. So they bring in 6 and lose 10. Not a lot of turnover to the roster.
I mean, no one probably wants their players. They have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It's like last chance you in the ACC.
And then
I want David Bailey, personally.
Okay, fair.
I don't know that they have a David Bailey on this roster. If you disagree, I would love to know who it is that you are calling.
Yeah, let me buy stocks now.
Yeah. I'm not sure who is David Bailey on this roster right now. But
no, the continuity is actually pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Players to watch. Every player on the defense. Every player currently projected to start is going into at least year 2 in the program. So there's only 2 transfers on the defensive side of the ball, I believe. And then 10 of those projected starters are either 4th or 5th year guys. And so it's a team that's played together for at least 2 years. It's a bunch of veterans, 23-year-olds, 22, 24-year-olds. It's an older team. And so that's kind of where I'm looking. That's kind of their only hope, especially on the defense side of the ball, is that maturity and experience wins out and lets them beat some teams that are definitely more talented on paper. They've got more stars next to their names. That's kind of their only way that I could see them having a successful season. Before I get into how they win, JP, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to just outline one, and this is the thing that I love about college football, is that because these athletes are forced to stay in college for 3 years before they can go to the pros, and now with all the eligibility stuff, dudes can play for 6 or 7 years, even 8 years, with injury red shirts and whatnot. I think my favorite story for the Stanford team is just Davis Warren, the guy who beat Ohio State in the shoe, likely to be the starting quarterback for the Stanford Cardinal this year. And I just think that's a fun story. His story is really fun. If you haven't heard Davis Warren's story, I heavily advise you to just go read about it or watch something about it. I'm sure there's a video or something out there. Just a former Michigan guy, incredible character, not talented. Sorry, Davis, but he'll be the Stanford quarterback for a reason. And I just think that's one of the things that I love about the sport is you can, with the transfer portal, with so many guys that are transferring, names can be in places that you just didn't expect because they're forced to stay in football for so long. It's cool to see them
Sure.
with different programs.
I'll go ahead and get in. So, for the fans who are watching this video and didn't watch our other videos, for every team, I have done how that team can win the 2027 ACC Championship, or 2026-2027. For Stanford, I'm going to do how they can win the 2027-2028 ACC Championship, because they cannot win the 2026-2027 ACC Championship. The way they do this is keep doing what you're doing, but maybe get a little bit more talent. So right now they're doing a really good job of getting guys in the program and keeping them there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys who are projected to start for defense did not transfer into the program, and they're all redshirt juniors, redshirt seniors. These guys have been here for 4 or 5 years. And so just keep doing that, but try and get a little bit more talent and then keep those guys in the program. It's really simple. If you need my number, I am available.
I think they need some money if you have it to make that happen.
Well, here's the thing. I kind of wonder if that's the plan, because they are not spending in the portal. You only bring 6 guys in the portal, and I don't believe any of them were 4 stars. I was listening to another podcast, and that was kind of their theory, is that Stanford is trying to play into their academic, they're trying to find smart kids who are athletes, pay them early in high school, get them in there, get to them early, develop them, pay them, keep them, and go that route. And it could work. You're not gonna win this year because of it.
Their high school class?
Their high school class was not great. I believe it was 15th in the ACC.
Yeah, do a little better.
They brought in 2 4-stars. Yeah. They brought in 2 4-stars. So if
make that 4 next year and then 8 next year.
If Evan Villa and Sione Cajo, a cornerback and a quarterback, a defensive back and a quarterback, can be the future stars of this program, Stanford unfortunately will not be getting back to the mid 2010s this year. But down the road, maybe that's the path they take. With Andrew Luck, what is he, the direct general manager?
Yeah, GM.
Maybe that's the direction they're headed, because I don't think it's through the portal. At least it wasn't this year. And I don't know how you bring in a new head coach and immediately not hit the portal. I will say they were kind of hurt that they brought a guy in from the NFL ranks typically, and we saw this talking about Cal just a little while ago. When they brought in the former DC from Oregon, he brought 4 former 4-stars with him from Oregon. When you go to the NFL, they can't yet, knock on wood, they cannot bring guys with them. And so that's kind of a way they hurt themselves, is they didn't go get an OC or a DC from somewhere else in the country. It's something to watch, but that's how I would have them win the 2028 ACC Championship.
Sure. Back to this season, I will take the over on the win total. I mean, they found 4 wins last year. Can they find 4 wins again? I'll say yes. Go Cardinal.
Hawaii. I haven't even looked at Hawaii. I have no idea how good they are going to be this year. Miami's a loss.
No, yeah, okay. Yeah. I won't go that bold.
At Duke is a loss.
Sure.
Georgia Tech, I would say, is a loss.
Yeah. But
At
they're
Wake
going to get
Forest
one of
is
these
a
teams
loss.
on having to fly cross country.
At Wake Forest is a loss.
You beat Wake Forest. You pull off a shocker.
I don't know. At Notre Dame is a loss.
Sure. I'll give you that one.
Elon, I'll give you that
Yeah.
one. So that's 2 wins, Miami, Hawaii, and Elon. NC State is a loss.
Sure.
At Louisville is a loss. At Virginia Tech is a loss. At California is a loss. SMU is a loss. I've got 2 wins.
Okay.
I'm taking the under.
You don't believe in...
Hey, 2028 though. 2028, I'm taking the over. I don't care what it is.
Okay.
I'm taking the under as well. They got
Sure.
5 trips across the country to play East Coast games.
That's what happens when
I
you
just
join
think
an
that's gonna be
East Coast
brutal.
conference.
True.
Yeah, I mean, it's their own fault. I thought Sanders' take is funny, though. It just reminded me of my Raiders off-season take from this year of the goal is not to be competitive this year, but to be competitive in 3 to 4 years when Mahomes and Herbert and Bo Nix are no longer in their prime. So I just thought that was funny. But I'm going to take the under. I think this is a 3-win team.
Sure.
So JP, you mentioned that they travel across the country. You said 3 times: Miami,
5.
Duke. Oh, 5 times. Sorry, Miami, Duke, Georgia Tech,
5.
Wake Forest, NC State. So that's 5 East Coast games, I believe, and so that's 3 hours, right? Pacific time to East Coast. They have a 4-hour time change, but in the other direction when they go. Actually, Hawaii comes there. Never mind. I was cooking up something over here. Well, 5 East Coast, 3-hour time zone.
It happens.
Yeah, and then they get the benefit of of making Hawaii travel 4 hours to come play them. Let's move on.
Last year they got a time change. They played at Hawaii to open the year.
That's tough. Syracuse.
Yep, the Orange went 4-8 last year. Steve Angeli.
Yep.
Yeah, went down with an injury, and while I don't think they would have had a great season, he was kind of their only hope to have a good season. So since he went down, they ended up going 4-8. Bit of a disappointment after the Kyle McCord season the year before, but they're going to look to bounce back from that. Does Vegas think they will bounce back? JP, what is the verdict there?
Syracuse's win total is also a coin flip at 4.5.
Wow.
The answer from Vegas is
nope.
No. That is tough.
That is tough.
You want to give us the big changes as to how they're going to try and prove Vegas wrong, Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, so the biggest change, and I have this, it's the only thing on my notes that's in all caps, is Steve Angeli is back. Last year, through 4 games, he was on pace for 5,200 yards, 40 touchdowns, with only 8 interceptions. And yes, I get that it's only through 4 games, but in those 4 games, they played Tennessee and Clemson. Obviously, Tennessee goes on to go 8-4, I believe. Clemson goes 6-6.
Solid defenses, though. Talent.
Solid talent. Like Clemson, I would argue defensively was elite talent, right? I mean, going into the season at least, with Avion Terrell, T.J. Parker, Peter Woods. Tennessee obviously did not play up to the level they were expected to, and the whole quarterback change kind of hurt them in the offseason. But it wasn't like it wasn't an FCS game and 3 out of conference, 3 out of G5 teams, right? It wasn't that kind of out of conference schedule. They played 2 really good P4 teams, and he threw for 1,000 yards. I think he threw for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns in 4 games. So
pretty good.
It was very good. He's back. Other players to watch are 2 wide receivers that they brought in to play with him. Matthew Outen was the number 5 wide receiver in the class of 2025. He transfers in. And then also class of 2026, so a freshman, their best player in the high school class, Calvin Russell, number 11 wide receiver in the class of 2026. I wonder if both those guys, I expect Russell to play. Oughton, I don't know. Like I said, it was last year's class, so maybe it already hasn't worked out for him. JP, would you like to mention somebody on a different team you think will start for them?
No, I just wanted to say I've won the Heisman with Matthew.
Oh, that's good to know.
We have JP's stamp of approval, so Matthew Allen will be doing big things this year.
That is big for Syracuse. That's what I have there. And then how they win the ACC is those guys I just mentioned. Angeli is the real deal, and he puts it together for a full season. And then the wide receivers break out and live up to the talent. And that's the guys I just mentioned, Oughton and Russell. Both of them top 100 players, I believe. So just that's what it would take.
The defense becoming like at least a top 100 unit in the FBS would be pretty helpful in that endeavor as well. Just a thought.
I mean, yeah, I'm always down to have better defense.
Sure. Anything to add, JP?
Yeah, I'm gonna pump the brakes on the quarterback. To be honest, Angeli coming off the Achilles injury. As far as when I read this morning, at least he's ahead of schedule on rehab, and there's probably a likelihood he could start the season. But I do think it's a interesting quarterback room. You have Malachi Nelson, a former 5-star, who transfers from Boise State, transfers from UTEP a la Boise State.
A la somewhere else. Is this his third or fourth school?
A la USC, no?
Yeah, USC to Boise State to UTEP, and now he winds up here at Syracuse to sit behind Steve Angeli.
He's been all over.
Yeah. And then there's another in the Conference USA defending champion, Amari Odom, the transfer from Kennesaw State, who was electric in the championship game, and of course electric for the Kennesaw State Owls last year. I do think there's maybe a chance that he could start the season if Angeli wasn't ready to go week 1, especially when week 1 is just a game against New Hampshire. Week 2 is really when it gets started when you play Cal. So maybe Amari Odom starts the season and then Angeli works his way in the next week.
Yeah.
Also, they do have don't they have the early bye too? Like
their bye comes in week 4.
So
and then they come out of that and go to UConn.
If he isn't ready, maybe he's ready post bye and he starts the second half of the season. Regardless, though, even if Angeli was healthy, I do think maybe there's a chance you could see one of those other two quarterbacks at some point in the season, or there is some kind of true competition. At least I would, if I'm running the quarterback room, I've got some competition there personally. So I wouldn't be all locked in on Angeli, especially coming off the Achilles injury.
Yeah, Achilles is always a little iffy. But with that being said, the win total is 4.5. I am going to take the under.
Wow. So you're that much of a hater.
I just feel like it.
All right. Pessimism over here.
Defense is probably going to be really bad again.
I'll just go ahead and say I'm taking the over. I've already laid out why. I like the quarterback. I like the wide receivers. So, I mean, I think they can win 5 games, 35, 34, like 32, you know. It's going to take a lot of score. If the defense is as bad as it was last year, it'll take a lot of scoring. But Angeli's the guy. He scored last year. He can score this year once he's healthy, obviously.
Sure.
I'm going to take the over. I'll get them to get to 5 wins somehow. I'll give Fran Brown that benefit.
Your team, Jack. Your secondary team.
Virginia.
Tertiary team behind A&M State?
Probably secondary.
Wow.
Really, really tertiary. Virginia, the Cavaliers, coming off a fantastic season that not a ton of people saw coming. I feel like I was pretty high on them in the regular season, but even my 2025 hype was mainly due to a weak schedule. And while they did partially take advantage of that, they were better for other reasons as well. They ended up going 11-3, ended on a bit of a sour note, but 11 wins for a UVA team. I mean, literally, they're breaking program records for win totals. They're doing all sorts of things. Fantastic season. And now they're going to have to see if they can ride that momentum with a pretty different group of players, as they were a pretty old veteran team last year. They lose their quarterback, Chandler Morris. the workhorse in the backfield, Jamari Taylor's gone. They're going to have to replace those pieces. It's going to be interesting to see if they can or if they have the right pieces in the building that can replicate that success. What does Vegas have their 2026 win total at, JP?
Vegas has got it at 7.5, and they're
Sure.
pretty heavy favorites to get over that 7.5.
Sanders, big changes. What do we got?
Big changes. Obviously, the quarterback, like you said, Chandler Morris is gone and enters Bo Prabula and Eli Holstein. I'm not going to give my guess on who will start, and I'll leave that to JP if he wants to hazard a guess. But players to watch.
I mean, that's a Bo guy right there.
He's a Bo guy? I was
I
a
am
Bo
a Bo
guy
guy.
last year, but then I realized that maybe his season wasn't as good as it felt. So now I'm kind of back on the fence on whether or not I'm a Bo guy.
I was not a Bo guy. I'm even less of an Eli Holstein guy. So now I'm a big Bo guy because he's Virginia's quarterback.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to roll.
Big Bo guy over there. Other players to watch before we get to quarterback. Last year, excuse me. Sorry. Their wide receiver with the most yards last year. So the guy on the roster right now who had the most productive season last year is Jaquan Gibson, had 600 yards last year at UMass. So not a lot of production in the wide receiver room. It's going to take some development and some breaking out. But other guys they have on the roster, Brandon Hillman, number 6 class safety in the class of 2023, posted a 70 PFF grade at Michigan last year and played a good bit of snaps. And then a guy I'm really excited for, Peyton Lewis, number 10 running back in the class of 2024. Over the last 2 years at Tennessee, he's averaged over 4.5 yards a carry with 10 touchdowns on 135 carries. So he's got some volume. There's been some really good Tennessee running backs in that room over the past couple of years, so he hasn't been able to get I believe Dylan Sampson was one of those running backs at Tennessee. So he hasn't been able to get the starting job, and that's how he ends up here at Virginia, where I think he could end up with the starting job. But those are the two guys I'm watching. Is one on defense and Brandon Hillman from Michigan, and then Lewis from Tennessee. JP, as a Bo guy, do you have thoughts on this quarterback? Is it a battle? Do you think it's is it a battle or not?
I don't think it should be a battle. I think Bo's earned that right. He's got more proven production, both at Penn State and at Missouri last year. He's played in bigger games. I just don't. I think if for Eli to get replaced by now, okay, that's a bad point because Bo did the same. For Eli to get replaced by a true freshman when Bo also got replaced by a true freshman. Bo was more so due to injury than it was.
I mean,
Eli
guy's
was
ankle
more so
was screwed up.
Yeah.
So
yes, Eli was more due to bad play. And as a Bo guy, I'm gonna take Bo as my starter for sure. I do think he's got great character. Not that his character isn't necessarily better than Eli's. I just think he's got good football character, good leadership. I thought in the games that he played last year for Missouri, I thought he looked really good. He didn't make a ton of splash plays, but I do think he really kind of led that offense and put them in some good spots. They just, like Missouri typically does, couldn't really finish the big one throughout the year. But of course, when they play the cupcakes like Mississippi State, Ahmad Hardy just runs for 5,000 yards.
It happens.
So
did we just fire a shot at our own team?
Blake Shapen started that game, so it was a cupcake game.
Fair.
I mean,
but I'm excited to watch as a Bo guy, Jack being a Cavalier guy. I'm ready to watch Virginia and Bo this year. I hope he. I mean, I'm expecting it, but I hope he doesn't, play as erratic as Chandler Morris did last year, and kind of put the ball in harm's way. I hope he protects the football and kind of keeps Virginia in games by not turning the football over this year.
The Chandler Morris experience was pretty special, in a bad way.
Yeah.
But also not, because won double-digit games.
How they win the ACC? Do what you did last year, but then win the championship.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Over under 7.5. I'm gonna take the over. I don't foresee another double-digit win season, but I still feel good enough about this team and the direction of this team under Tony Elliott to take the over at 7.5.
going to take the over as well. Last season was an incredible season. The 11 wins. You have a top 10 win in there. Top 10 win over
Yep.
Florida State. You beat an SEC team in Missouri in a bowl game. I'm going to take the over. I'm glad they're not starting the season in Brazil. They were supposed to play NC State week 0 in Brazil.
Was that game not going to count as a non-conference game?
I think it counts as a conference game this year as opposed to last year. So hopefully that means they'll, get amped up and actually try to win it, unlike last year.
Yeah.
But I'll take the over on 7.5. I think this Virginia team will be another solid team, and they really only play 2 ACC games that I'm looking at as kind of big tests, and that is at SMU, and then the team that we're eventually about to get to that I've mentioned so many times at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
What did you say, JP? I was fixing something. Over under.
You took the over.
Over. Man, let's look at the schedule real quick. NC State, Norfolk State, West Virginia, Delaware, at Florida State, Syracuse, at SMU, Duke, at Wake Forest. A week 10 bye, one of those late buys. I'll take the over. I'll join y'all
Welcome
on
aboard.
the over train. And we can get to this Virginia Tech team.
Two more teams. We get to Virginia Tech. I'll let you put up the disastrous year for Virginia Tech last year. They went 3-9 and were the first Power 4 team to fire their coach. Correctly predicted by me. One of the very few things I got right last year. But yeah, Brent Pry, yes, was out the door, and they have brought in the savior of Virginia Tech football. James Franklin comes over from Penn State. Immediately got to work flipping recruits from Penn State, getting a couple other big commits, doing some work in the transfer portal. Does Vegas think that is going to be enough? The work he did in the offseason, is it going to be enough for them to put together a good 2026 season? And the verdict is...
I'm surprised by this win total, I won't lie, because it's the first time I've seen it. Virginia Tech, 6.5. Pretty heavy favorites for over 6.5, but still.
Yeah. I feel like that's right about where I would expect it to be. James Franklin has a lot of experience in data to show he's a winning football coach, but the Virginia Tech team was left in a pretty rough spot, so it may be a couple-year project here. Big changes besides the James Franklin one?
Well, yeah, so big change, obviously, and I thought it was funny you said they had a terrible year. I would argue that Virginia Tech honestly actually had one of the better years.
Yeah, you might as well be so horrible you get the coach
Right.
that's really good.
It was a very successful year for them because now they have the head coach that they hope can lead them back to the glory days of the early 2000s. Michael Vick and Enter Sandman in its prime.
Sure.
Pre my memory. But yeah, James Franklin comes from Penn State after many double-digit win seasons. Unfortunately, this last year he goes 3-3 and gets fired. He comes down to Virginia Tech, and one of the big things he did that I think was a big win for him was retains Brent Pry as the DC. Which I don't know if that fits. Does that fit under the big change category, or is that like
It's a change.
no change?
He changed roles.
Changed roles. Okay, I guess we can call that a big change.
That's gonna be so weird, man. I don't know if I could do that.
Well, I mean, State's about to do it with Arnett and Lebby, kind of, because
but at least there's like time has passed.
Yeah, that's fair. It is.
You've done a lot of things.
True, alleged things.
Yeah.
Not confirmed. But yeah, it is similar to where you are now taking boss orders from someone who's in your office. I guess that's got to feel a little weird. But I'm excited. Brent Pry's a great defensive coordinator. I think he must love it there in Virginia Tech because is that Blacksburg?
Correct.
Yes.
Must love it in Blacksburg. I love
horrible town.
Well,
Charlottesville clears.
Yeah, not biased at all as a Virginia fan. Other things that have changed. Quarterback situation is obviously expected to be different. They've got Ethan Grunkemeyer, who comes in from Penn State, follows James Franklin.
Is this another one of JP's boys?
Is Grunkemeyer one of your boys?
Not really.
Okay.
Like, I watched the Penn State games when he finally came in for Drew Aller, when Drew Aller hurt his foot the midpoint of the season. He wasn't all that impressive. I do think, like, it's kind of lost, but he was in the Indiana game where Indiana goes down, finally scores on the last possession. Best catch of the maybe ever, Omar Cooper. Gronkmeyer was not the reason that Penn State was in the lead that day. Their defense just played outstanding that day, and they were able to capitalize off of short fields. I think the continuity will help, coming over with James Franklin to a degree, but his starts weren't with James Franklin as the head coach. So I don't know how much that really will help them there. I
Yeah.
am not a Gronkmeyer guy like I am a guy.
Sure. Good
Yeah.
to know.
Another weird thing about this situation is how much Franklin retained. So he comes in, and obviously the kind of expectation when when you change coaches is a lot of guys transfer out, a lot of guys transfer in. But in the ACC, Virginia Tech was sixth in total players transferred out, with only 23 players who left the program, and that was behind Florida State, who kept their head coach, North Carolina, who kept their head coach, Louisville, who kept their head coach, and Boston College, who kept their head coach. So there's a lot of teams in the ACC who have the same head coaches last year, who lost more guys in the portal, who had more turnover in the portal than Virginia Tech and James Franklin did. So that's one thing to keep your eye on. Another thing is that right now, according to our lads, only 7 transfers are projected to start for Virginia Tech. So once again, that kind of goes back to Franklin came in and clearly saw something that he liked. Maybe that's why he took the job, as he liked some of the talent that was already on the roster. So he comes in and he doesn't completely clean house. He doesn't just bring in. He doesn't do what the Iowa State head coach who went to Penn State.
Matt Campbell.
Thank you. He doesn't do what Matt Campbell does, where he just makes Penn State, Iowa State East. He retains a lot of the guys that he already had on the roster at Virginia Tech. He brings in some players from other places, not just Penn State. He didn't empty the coffers at Penn State, really. He did bring some good players with him. He brought Gronkmeyer. He brought Luke Reynolds in the portal. He gets Malachi Williams, an edge rusher, in the portal. But a lot of consistency from last year to this year. Hopefully it will be better coached, right? So if he thinks he's got the talent, he just needs to manage it better than it was last year. And then I'll go ahead and talk about how they win the ACC, and it's pretty simple. James Franklin is no longer in a conference with Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. So he's just going to win a lot of games.
Sure.
Because it's what he did. At Vanderbilt in the early 2010s, he was winning 6 or one more than 6 games, which I feel like obviously now we're in an unprecedented era of Vanderbilt football. But for a long time, they would just
That's pretty good.
They would go over in conference play, and he was winning, getting to bowl games with Vanderbilt before they were winning 10 games and trying to make it to the playoffs. So then he wins double-digit games at Penn State regularly. Like he's just a winner, and he kind of got away from what has jokingly been his curse, which is good teams or elite teams, excuse me. And now he's in the ACC, where I don't think he plays. He does play Miami, so there's the elite team he'll have to play. But other than that, I mean, maybe come week 7, Clemson all of a sudden looks elite. But I really don't think there's any other teams on that roster or on that schedule that you're gonna say are elite. And so I think 9 wins is possible. It'd be really good for him in year 1, but I think 9 wins is possible.
So you're taking the over?
Yeah, I'll go take the over. I'll jump the gun a little bit.
I want the under. 6 wins. Give me 6 wins.
6 wins for Enter Sandman in year 1? What a VMI, Old Dominion.
There's 2 wins. The Monarchs aren't bad now, though.
They lost to Old Dominion last year.
Case in point.
Yep, new head coach, new
Sure.
quarterback.
James Franklin definitely hasn't lost stinkers before.
At Maryland.
Easy loss.
Okay. At Boston College, you got it. That's a win.
I'll give him that.
Pittsburgh.
Toss up. I'll give him the win there. I'll say that's kind of like one of their bigger wins.
At California, I'll give you the loss.
Yep.
Georgia Tech, we can call a loss. At Clemson.
Loss.
At SMU, we can give the loss. Stanford, win. At Miami and Virginia.
Loss.
I can see the 6 wins.
Yeah.
I'm still sticking my over, but I can see it. JP?
I'm gonna take the over. I think they'll get to 7.
Sure.
With Vegas taking the favorite there. I just hope that they can, kind of the fans are going to show out in the stadium, but I hope the fans get to continue to stay in the stadium. And so I'm looking at games like the Friday night game against Pitt in Week 5.
Yeah.
They may be 4-0 going into that game, and that could be a really, really big environment. That's just something we want to. Well, Jack doesn't want to see, but I think Sanders and I would like to see. Enter
Absolutely.
Sandman and that place rocking.
That place is on my bucket list to go, and I now have an in. One of my friends just married a girl who graduated from Virginia Tech. Best man in that wedding, by the way. Just quick tap on the shoulder.
Congrats.
Weird flex.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, the day was more about me than them, really.
That's what I'm hearing, yeah.
No, I'm very excited to have an in there now because hopefully, if they ever go, I can just tag along in third wheel. I think they went
Maybe
last year.
Set you up with someone.
Maybe.
Went there.
Or
go.
Goes.
That
goes
went there.
there.
That went there. I mean, goes there. Is totally acceptable.
Yeah. Fine. In post grad,
Yeah.
grad school.
Oh.
Wake Forest.
The last team, Wake Forest, who went 9-4 last season, and if I'm not mistaken, dispatched Mississippi State in a bowl game.
They did. They did
to cap off their season. Some would argue
we got extra practices
if Mario Taylor didn't start cramping or whatever happened, that's an easy dub.
Yep.
For sure. Scariest 2 hours of Mississippi State fans' lives in the last 2 years.
I forgot about. Oh my gosh! I went to bed and we're not talking about Mississippi State football. I was basically crying that night going to bed, and I'm 24 years old. I was 23 at the time.
A&M has also lost a bowl game to Wake Forest in my lifetime, so it happens to the best of us. One of the best bowl games I've ever watched, by the way. I mean,
ours was not
50-plus points scored by both teams.
Wow,
like that's what you want in a bowl game.
Yeah,
just let it rip.
Wake Forest just owns the maroon and white SEC teams.
Yeah, apparently went 9-4, very successful season. Can they repeat it? Does Vegas think they will repeat it? JP, what do we have as the win total for 2026 in Wake Forest?
They are favored to win just more than 5 games next season. 5.5.
Vegas thinks not.
Well, Vegas can be proven wrong sometimes. Big changes, Sanders. Any big changes? They say this worked last year. Let's run it back.
I mean, unfortunately, they do have big changes. They bring in Gio Lopez, the former North Carolina, former South Alabama.
I don't love to hear that personally.
Yeah, it's actually not technically in the big. I don't have anything in the big changes
category.
Didn't
they win 9 games last year with Robbie Ashford? So maybe quarterback doesn't matter that much.
Maybe not. They've got some new wide receivers, some new offensive. They've got sprinkled transfers all over the offensive side of the ball, and then on defense, they're starting a lot of guys who are returning.
That's good.
And sticking around in the program. But yeah, with Gio Lopez as your quarterback, I do have some concerns.
Who's the backup? Because Gio Lopez probably gets hurt.
Steele Pizzella.
Are you a Steele Pizzella guy, JP?
Well, no, I was gonna say Wake Forest's offensive coordinator Rob Ezel coached Gio Lopez at South Alabama. So you got coordinator.
There's Team Kim there.
Quarterback combo there, so they should be decent. And look, my favorite Gio Lopez days were his South Alabama days and not North Carolina.
So
I'm gonna have some belief in it.
Okay,
this year.
Fair enough. I'll maybe hop on the train then too.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go. Just real quick. I just want to know what his stats like. I know he was good at South Alabama. 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 5 picks. Yeah, I mean he was decent.
It's all right.
Definitely would need some development here, but maybe reuniting with the OC will be the answer to that needed development. I really don't have much more on Wake Forest. I could talk about that bowl game for another 2 hours, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah, why don't we just hear what JP's thoughts are, if any, and then pick this game and get out of here.
Pick this.
No disrespect to Wake Forest. This is what happens when...
Pick this win total?
Yeah, pick the win total. This is what happens when you are the last team alphabetically in a 17-team conference.
This is true.
And you're not a good team either.
Yeah, that as well.
I will say Mississippi State has beaten Wake Forest in a bowl game before.
Okay,
true.
Huge.
Have y'all?
I don't know. I don't think so, but maybe.
Get cooked.
We beat them in the semifinals of the NIT 4 years ago. 3 years ago? I think no, 4 years ago. Yeah,
That's
probably 4 years ago.
Was that the A&M team that got robbed?
Yes, when we went on the run to the SEC finals and moved up like
Yeah.
one total spot in bracketology.
That's a big win for Buzz Williams.
Quinn and Jackson's team.
Yeah.
But really, we
that's
didn't deserve it anyway because Buzz Williams didn't start Quinn and Jackson for half the season. So this guy's on an NBA team, by the way, and no one else on that team is. But, Buzz Williams does a lot of things that befuddle me. So, like
Wake
Joel
Forest
Osteen, for
football.
example. That befuddles me.
Wake Forest football. It is, Wake Forest football.
Give me the
Anything
over,
else?
man. Give me the over. Just like that, I've swung on Gio Lopez. They got the coordinator connection. We got the green Kim line connected between them, traced between them. Ever played FIFA?
That's big.
Dude, it's 5.5. I thought it was 4.5. They can make a bowl. They can go back to a bowl game, not based off academics. I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the under. I think they lose the opener to Akron.
Wow,
That's
the
crazy.
Zips get them.
That's 22-point favorites. They're going to lose.
I think I'm also
Not a best bet.
I think I'm also going to take the under to kind of balance things out because I do think I've had more overs than unders so far, which continues for those of y'all that watched the show last year, you know that me and JP were neck and neck in our picks down the stretch, and I think we picked all but like 3 teams to finish over under the same.
Y'all are almost identical here.
Yeah, we picked.
You got one off?
We picked Cal differently, Duke differently, and Miami differently.
Okay, never mind.
So
I was
3
not
3 out of 17 though is a lot of teams that we picked the exact same. So, yeah, there's that.
Well, look, y'all. Why don't we get out here?
Let's do it.
Thanks everyone who tuned in. It is very much bedtime, and so, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all get some sleep, and we will go get some sleep as well. Peace. See y'all next time.
See ya.